And we're live.
Traditional lands of Sawridge First Nation within Treaty 8 territory, home to Indigenous, Métis, and Inuit peoples who have occupied these lands since time immemorial. Okay, welcome everyone. Counselor Adams,
Motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
any discussion? Call to question those in favor, and that is carried. Next up, we have minutes of previous meetings. Counselor Hughes,
Motion to accept the committee of the whole meeting from August 15th as presented.
motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor, and that is carried. As part of the agenda package, we have 3 delegations coming up. The first one is going to be joining us via Zoom and isn't quite ready yet. So if that's okay with you, Gord, we're going to start with you. Yeah,
Before we start, I need to declare a conflict and step out.
okay, thank you, Bryce.
Please make note of that in the minutes.
You can come on up. And if you can state your full name and address in the mic when you get a minute, and then just a reminder that we are to keep presentations to 10 minutes.
Name is Gordon Ferguson, 1917 Pioneer Drive, Southwest, Slave Lake, Alberta.
Thanks.
So I think you
Yep.
have a copy of the letter that I sent.
Yes.
Right. So, and I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I have paid taxes here for over 40 years and never been late. And as evidenced by, I sent you the receipt there. I paid all my other taxes at the Royal Bank, but I don't deal with that bank. I couldn't pay it there, so I came here at lunch hour and closed. So I just threw it in the back seat of my car and forgot about it. And I was shocked when I got my bill the next year showing the next year's balance and all these penalties. And so I'm just seeking some relief from that because it's very, very high.
Okay. Any questions?
Just a clarification, what do you mean? What, I guess, what are you asking for when you say some relief?
Just some relief on that because it's excessive, eh? Like with, the 10% and then the 10% and the 10%. And I've changed my address now to my home address because it was all coming to my office, which I'm not in there a lot. So it's my bad. But like I say, I have been a faithful, payer of property taxes on time all these years. I'm not asking for total relief because I understand there's a time cost of money, but some relief.
Okay. Further questions?
None from me.
No? Okay. All right. Thank you. You've definitely kept under 10 minutes. I appreciate that. The vote for the resolution is this just comes after all the delegations under business arising from delegations.
Okay,
All right.
good, thank you.
Thank you. And can I get a motion from council to accept that as information, please? Councilor Brandel.
I move that we accept that as information.
Thank you. Call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Can you get Bryce back, please? Jeff, do we have the online delegation yet?
Is down online? No, so you can
Okay.
go to number 3 to see.
To see, okay, Edie? Again, when you get up here, if you can state your full name and address. Thank you.
Hey, my name is Edie Clausen. I'm here on behalf of Big Fish Bay and the address is 1000 Caribou Trail, Northwest.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I come here on behalf of our ownership and our customers at Big Fish Bay. We, as you guys have heard many times, we struggle with the homeless inside of our resort. And with that location where they were last year, it became even bigger of a problem. We not only had to lock our shop doors, we had to park equipment in front of the doors so they couldn't break into them. Our shower house and our outhouses had to be under lock and key. I think you guys all got my email. I'm not sure if I need to read that email to you guys at this point. I would like to read a letter from one of our customers. Now, I had quite a few customers that wanted to join me tonight, and I asked them not to, because I do not want to create a team and go hard up against the Homeless Coalition. I'm not here to create division. I know that we need to figure something out, and I know we need to figure out a permanent solution for where the homeless location can be. And I really felt we had a meeting last week at the resort, and also quite a few came and joined us in that meeting. And I didn't feel right moving forward in that direction. And I just want you guys to know, we want a resolution. We don't want division. And we stand behind that quite strongly. So I'll just read this letter that I received from one of the customers. She writes, in regards to the Homeless Coalition near the fire hall. I am writing this letter to you in regards to the Homeless Coalition being allocated back to the fire hall, which is located across from Big Fish Bay Resort. We understand the great need for a shelter within the community. However, I feel as though the Big Fish Bay Resort tenants' voices need to be heard as well. We are originally from Edmonton and traveled 2.5 hours to the beautiful town of Slave Lake to spend our summers at Big Fish Bay Resort for the peace and tranquility of the resort, and also enjoy the summer activities within the resort and the community of Slave Lake. We have been seasonal holders for the past 3 years. Big Fish Bay Resort is a family-friendly resort built around recreation, outdoor activities, and a safe place for families to unwind and let their children play freely. However, the Homeless Coalition previously near the resort, we have experienced theft while storing our unit and items from the resort during the winter season. Homeless personnel in the washroom facilities and amongst the resort. Children and families utilize the trail near the fire hall to access the town amenities and have experienced confrontation along the way. This causes potential risk to children, families, and property, and has the possibility for a serious incident to occur within the resort, as there are children at large. The resort should be a safe and friendly haven for families and the community to enjoy. While we understand the great need of the homelessness within the community, by no means to disrespect the homeless community, we feel as though the homeless shelter should not infringe on everyday lives of people that are on vacation or living within the community of Slave Lake. The resort is not only occupied by travelers near and far, but there is also a large community presence that visits and accesses the resort's amenities daily. We hope that as a seasonal holder and a yearly visitor to the beautiful town of Slave Lake, that you will take this into your consideration. This is one voice of over 200 seasonals. Our resort has 450 sites, and for at least 6 weeks, we were 100% full. We were booked. We were turning people away. Now, it has caused us lots of hardship. We have to have extra staff. We have staff working through into the night to monitor. It is not fair to our customers that they have to come and ask for a code or a key to get into our shower house and into our bathroom facilities, though that is what we've enforced. And since we've done that, there's a lot less messes, and at least our customers get to use a clean facility. So we really want to ask you guys to find another location, and that location not to be used again for this coming season. When the Homeless Coalition came forward last year, multiple times they said this was temporary for that year only. I do not feel the work has been put into it over this past year to find a new location, or that there's been communication with the businesses at all. Like, even since last meeting, I really did feel I'd hear from the Homeless Coalition to start a dialogue. Nothing came out from that. So I just really, it is not the right location. We're a town with huge potential for tourism. There's tons of tourism that's coming here already. But there's so much more, like we have so much to offer. We need to find a permanent solution. But the location that was chosen is across from our entry. It is not the right location. And it is not fair to all those people who spend their savings coming here to visit our town and our resort, to have to be faced with that almost on a daily basis.
Thank you. Counselor Wall.
Thanks for coming, Edie. I always said that you would have probably the best perspective on this, since you see this out your window every single day. I would predict that you put more thought into this than anyone, that you've thought about this, that I just want to come back to you and say, I know you put in a lot of effort and time into this. Where would some better locations be, in your opinion?
I have lots of opinions where it could be, but where would it work? I had a discussion with Barb due to feeling like, I don't want to put it in somebody else's backyard. I want to be respectful to other businesses as well. I want the other businesses to have the same respect as what we're asking for. And therefore, when Barb and I were speaking, we both agreed that across the highway 88, would be a good location. It's not that far from the RCMP. I did raise the concern to her that there's a highway there that they would be crossing. And she said, that's not a factor. They're crossing the highway all the time. She said that was the least of her concerns. She also felt, too bad she's not here tonight. But she also felt that, that was a good location where they could, a permanent structure could be built for them there, where they are not fenced up, and where they do have that green space that they were looking for, where they could grow over the years, like where there's more room there for them to have facilities if they want to bring in offices or whatever for help with some of the addictions in that, along that line.
I will just briefly make commentary on that land that the town actually does not own that property.
Okay.
So that is a provincial asset.
Okay.
Each year we do request for permission to use that for the fairgrounds. That being said, that doesn't mean it's impossible to acquire. But as far as short term, when you're looking at the upcoming season, nothing moves that quickly in government to be able to allow that to happen. I don't personally disagree with that location. I actually think it is one of the ones that makes a ton of sense, as well in conversations with Barb, but just wanted to be clear for everyone here, as well as for
That's good
for yourself,
information
just
to
so that
have.
you know that it is not currently owned by the town and would require either permission. We would definitely require permission to house any shelter there. And if there was to be construction, it would require a transfer of ownership or purchasing off of the province. So
Okay.
there's a few factors in there.
The second piece of property, can I just quickly mention this, was across from the airport, beside the animal shelter. I know that that's been talked about previously, and there needs to be an investment. I don't know what you guys said, about $100,000 for a sidewalk to be built. I do feel that also is a great location. It's not far from the Friendship Center. Barb is very engaged with the homeless, and has done an amazing job over the years. And I believe that is an area where they go for food and showers.
Councillor Adams?
Yes.
Oh, two things there. Yeah, we have discussed that one in the past. It was the sidewalk was one of the main factors, and also the increased cost for all the utilities. They're not quite as accessible as they were anywhere else. And again, you had to go to a second entity in order to get permission to use that. That's again, not town land, so we can't say, yes, go ahead. The town owns very little land as a whole that's available for any sort of use. So that's why it was chosen in that location. The other point, you say in your letter, this should not impact the families of Slave Lake or seasonal holders. I don't know how we can have a homeless shelter and not impact the families of Slave Lake and anybody that's visiting Slave Lake. It's a fact of life and that we have to deal with. It does make it difficult where we're gonna pick this, and honestly, nowhere is ideal for it, because it's always in somebody's backyard, which nobody wants. This is an ongoing question, so if that's your goal, is not to impact, I don't know how can this be done? I guess my question to you, if not there, where? And I know you're saying 2 locations that we have no control over. So again, as you'll feel the pain that we're having when we get asked this question, and to help, because honestly, I don't want somebody sitting out -40 freezing to death.
Absolutely not.
None of us do. And it's a matter of what we can do to make this right, and what we can do to have the least impact with people. So again,
So I have a
What do we do?
question back at you. The location across from Fournier Place does that belong to the town?
from Fournier Place.
Sunset
No,
Place.
No, that's the place, yeah.
Sunset Place does.
Sunset
no,
Place.
half of it does. Half does not.
Half of it does belong to the town?
Sunset, where Sunset is
The one
belong to
part,
town,
yeah.
but
No, behind it, on the
is
side.
our town.
Yeah.
The
So-
top is clear.
Yeah, one right there.
Now, I'm not sure what happened to all the services that were put in there,
There
but
are-
we all know there was many services put in there after the fires.
They were just there.
They were temporary and removed.
But there is services up to the land, correct?
Up to the property.
Up to the property. So that is a piece that is owned by the town. And it seems the homeless like hanging out in the trees behind it. So why would that not have been?
Again, you're impacting, I believe it's Sarge on that one, and Barton and the landowners there. So it's taking what you're saying, one problem from one place and putting it in another. It's the same idea, right?
So then my last question here, one of my last questions here is, a year has gone by. I know that the homeless coalition was not before council asking for help and seeking for a location. I really feel yet again, the ball has been dropped. They're coming late, asking for a location that was very controversial last year. And where council is put in a position where they have no choice but to say it's an emergency, we have to allow them to use it. So at last year's meeting, it was stated that the homeless coalition would be in close contact with all the businesses. That did not happen. It did not happen at all. And I know we were talking to their security and stuff. There was drugs, there was alcohol, there's all kinds of stuff going on over there. Now we have that right at our doorsteps. We were finding drugs and needles and everything in our shower houses and bathrooms that were there for our customers. And our customers, we have a large tourist attraction there. Is this what we want for our tourists? Like, I really feel we need to take a big look at the bigger picture of this. It is not the right location. It is not the right location for them. And I do believe in the email that I sent out to you guys. We did go to that encampment with the RCMP and take back a lot of our belongings, 17 propane tanks, tow ropes. What else was there? There's a ton of stuff, shovels, rakes, a whippersnipper, a truckload full that we went and pulled back of Big Fish Bay's property.
I don't think you're alone in that pain. I think we've all been impacted, whether in our neighborhoods or directly,
they're stealing
from
from
that.
our tourists.
and they're stealing from our residents.
That's
And
right.
it's not just them, it's other people in the community that are stealing from tourists and from the residents. To say specifically who did it or who did what is one, and I'm sorry, I feel like I'm getting into a bit debate and I should not be. I just struggle with, there's no ideal location. There's no ideal spot. What we do to take this forward is, yes, we need to maybe put a little more pressure in the groups that we can. But like you say, we're always put in the situation here, it seems that we're facing an emergency. And granted, this is earlier than last year,
Not
but
much.
still not as early as I would like.
No.
And this has been going on, and I know you brought Barb into this as well. It's been going on since Barb has taken this over, because every year come September, October, and November, when we were trying to get it in the church, it was the same situation. So again, not an ideal location then, not an ideal location now. And it is an ongoing thing that needs to be dealt with. And it's been going on, well, hell, since I was a kid. It's been an issue.
Last November at the meeting, I clearly stated the businesses would stand together and help. And we did meet with the executive and we told her, we are willing to stand together, do a fundraiser. Please reach out to us. We will help you find a location. Let's work together. That was the last contact we had. So I really feel that there's strongly relying on the location that was temporarily given to them for 1 year. And I just feel that that needs to be considered. Like, it needs to be considered in your decision moving forward. How many years of temporary is this going to be? And as to our stuff and you not knowing whether it was the homeless that took it, we went to the homeless encampment and retrieved the product that was taken from Big Fish Bay.
Councillor Adams, you can go ahead if you like.
The temporary location, and like you say, it is coming down the last minute. Again, with it being temporary, I don't know where we go with it being in last minute. What would be a solution to be able to have this in place for Christmas? Wish it stayed warm until Christmas, but until it gets cold. This is where I struggle is I don't like it being late. I don't like it. I don't like the situation we're being put in. But at the same time, I don't know what the answer is to do it right now. And I understand your frustration and I'm with you on it.
But they haven't worked on it for the last.
But if moving forward, let's say we say no to this situation, like you want us to,
Mhm.
what happens? We don't have another location to go to.
You don't know that unless
Well,
many heads stand together and make it work.
you guys have some land you want to let us use with services?
It was offered and it was turned down.
With services.
It was mentioned a year ago. And it was we were told that's not an option. But we're
Okay,
getting
yeah.
far out. I am asking again that you say no to the location and we rely on the businesses. I know the businesses will stand together and help us figure this out. I think there comes a time where we just have to, where if the answer is no, it'll force people to come together. And it'll force people to figure it out. And I think that time has come. Because likely, if it doesn't happen that way, we will sit here next year and talk about this temporary location being the only location again for another year. Like I feel, I'm sorry, the Homeless Coalition should have been here 6 months ago saying, what's the plan for next winter? And it didn't happen. And it didn't happen. And they were clearly warned last year that it was a 1 year and that they needed to plan for this. Where's the planning been?
I can appreciate everything you're saying. Or Kim, you want to go ahead?
Yeah,
Okay, go
if
ahead.
it's okay for a second. Councillor Adams kind of took a couple of the points that I was going to make, but I wanted to say I really liked it when you mentioned that you want a resolution and not division. That's really
Absolutely.
hitting home with me right now, and I don't want to see that as well. I actually glanced up at the sign after you said that, and I see our very mission statement is working together, building a better community.
Absolutely.
So ultimately, whatever happens here, I do hope that all of our groups can come together and engage in a productive way to figure out a solution. As Councillor Adams said, it is beyond challenging. And I do have to say, as a newer person to council, sitting on this side of the table, understanding all of the elements that come into that and finding the perfect location is so hard. Like, we
Understand.
have racked our brains to try to figure out a solution, and we just don't have anything that readily available. And that honestly kills me, because I don't want to see businesses impacted in our community. I think things are hard enough already. And I do feel awful that those things are happening at Big Fish Bay. And there's things happening downtown too. There's so many elements that are really out of our control in that regard too. And so I think I just wanted to express that I hear you and I understand, and I would love to find the perfect spot too. I just don't know, what that is at this time either. That can come together that quickly. And there's another thing that I have learned, unfortunately, and it's that municipal government does not move quickly.
No,
So that is, of course, another huge concern and a huge factor when we're thinking of it's already getting pretty chilly outside and winter is approaching. And I would also agree with your statement. I think it's a fair assessment to say that we had hoped this would be at the table much, much sooner. That's accurate. I did also hope that that would be the case as well.
yes, and I also just want to mention some of the businesses that were at that meeting, Ruel, Sierra, Schaefer's, Apex. There was many business owners sitting at that table offering help. And we were not reached out to in accepting that help. So I feel there's such a huge reliance on that the town will just let us use the location that is there. So,
And sorry, so earlier when you referenced land being offered, can you elaborate on that? Like,
what, at this point, I'm not going to elaborate on
Okay.
that. It was taken up with Tyler Warman.
Okay.
And he said that is not an option.
Okay.
We can maybe do that in private if you guys would like.
Yeah,
Um,
if there is another option that would work, then I mean, I'm certainly open to exploring that for sure, but time is also of the essence, I guess, at the same point. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Carry on.
Just clarifying question. You were saying that they haven't reached out to you and the communication, when you said you guys would work together, they didn't reach out to you. Did you guys make an attempt to reach out to them, or did you join? Did you try to become part of the homeless coalition?
No, we did not try to become part of the homeless coalition. We told her as a group of businesses, we would stand together and do a
At the
fundraiser.
meeting, but I mean, after that.
Not at the meeting after the whole town ordeal last year. We
Yeah,
met
and I
at
remember the
Apex.
Yeah,
Pardon me?
yeah, I remember hearing about that one.
Yeah, okay. So we
And-
did stand together and try, but she did speak to, I think, Murray said she had reached out to him once, just checking to see if the homeless were bothering him. And I did run into her and I spoke to her and I did remind her, please try to reach out and we can plan a meeting and we can all get together. Nothing came of it.
But nothing was headed up by the group either.
He was supposed to
correct?
plan
Either
a
one.
date for the meeting.
Okay, well, I'm getting at
He's
it's
going to
two-way
join her.
street and it's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Councilor Wellman?
Okay, so I know when like we are getting a little bit close to winter. If it was to go into the same location as it was last year, is there anything that we could look at to make it better or for Big Fish Bay or for all the residents, I guess, down there?
A promise that it would not be there the following year. That this would be the last year, that the homeless coalition would move forward knowing that this is the last year that that location would be available to them.
I don't think,
Councilor Adams?
sorry, I'm dragging this out, but I don't believe the town made that commitment that it would only be for the year. The town said that they would sign a year.
The-
The homeless
town did-
coalition said they would only do it for a year,
It was addressed in the meeting verbally. So if you're looking for actual
but the
signatures,
town did not say.
no, the town
No.
didn't, actually,
No.
MPC only allowed the location for that one
For
time
that one
period.
season.
So technically, yes,
But
because it was given a time limit of till April
That's the
15th,
NPC, but it does that every year on every application for the last 15 years.
which is correct. I'm just,
Okay.
there is nothing signed from the town saying we wouldn't allow future years. However, during the meeting, the homeless coalition did state that. That's,
but not.
no, not the town.
I believe Edie's not saying we said that. I believe she's saying.
We would like
make it
to
better
see
This
that.
year, if there was a guarantee of 1 year and to find another solution.
And we would not appeal it. We would leave it alone. If we could, if that's what they need, because they're in desperate need and they need to have it this 1 year, and we could get a guarantee that we will not see it there in the future years.
The problem with that is that I don't know that they can make that promise because they don't, they're struggling to find a spot, right? So it would be an empty promise because they might be right back here again the next year, right?
And this was our concern last year with exactly that. We said that at the meeting. You're allowing it temporary for 1 year and it is going to turn into the location. And that is why we fought strongly.
Councilor Brandel?
Councilor Gramlich pretty much said what I was gonna say. It's like that because we don't have a location now, we can't guarantee where it's gonna go, whether it's short term or long term. So
It takes time to build something, even if we say we got funding today, it takes time.
that's right. So yeah, pretty hard for us to say that we can guarantee anything, unfortunately.
So I think we've all heard what you've had to say, and I really appreciate you coming out to council meeting and discussing all of this with us.
Okay.
I sympathize with the fact of all the issues that have come forward with the business, from the businesses and from things being stolen from your seasonal holders, and I'm hearing you loud and clear when you say all of that.
Mhm.
I am also frustrated with the lack of planning. So I do share that. I think this is way too late in the season to be coming forward with this. So I am also frustrated with that. And I believe we all hear your concerns and have the opportunity to ask questions. And our decision will be made shortly after this.
Okay, and then one more, just to answer the second part of your question, or one of you asked what could be done. I really hope it's not gonna go there, but that sidewalk cannot be open, like that brings in, you guys pave that sidewalk right into our campground through the ditch. That brings in loads of that traffic.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you
you.
very much. Can I get a motion to accept this information, please? Counselor Gramlich. Call the question, those in favor, and that is carried. Our delegation from 3A with Realty Canada Inc. is on now. Counselor Randall.
I need to step out of a conflict.
Okay,
As well as I.
okay, and Counselor Moala.
Good luck, everyone.
We'll just give the counselors a second. Oh, Ally, okay, I'll give you a little bit longer. Yes. Can you hear us all right, Dan?
I sure can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's a little bit quiet. We're just gonna get him to turn that up. We just had a few counselors leave due to conflict of interest. So you got a little bit of a smaller group for this presentation.
I understand, and seeing, half the council leave, I don't know if I should be offended or less nervous. I know I understand why they're leaving. Thank you for taking this time to meet with me today. I know your time is valuable, and you have a lot of issues to deal with, including homeless, that if you find any resolution for you in Slave Lake, please let us know in Edmonton, because this has just been a growing issue as well. But what I'm here to speak to you about today is about a rare situation involving, a municipality and a condominium corporation. And in this case, it's Woodland Place. I'm sure most of you in the room are familiar with it. Hopefully all of council has had a chance to read the letter that I had supplied to administration back on July 7th. As outlined in the letter, there was, without getting into all the previous details, there was an agreement between administration and ourselves that once the town had taken over title to the property due to tax arrears, that the town's administration would file for vacant possession and basically kick the owner out. This was very crucial because there was disturbances and illegal activity which were growing and becoming more frequent on the property. And considering Woodland Place had actually agreed to pay the town's additional legal fees to have the property vacant, we were actually stunned to find out that the town decided not to have the title transferred in their name. They did not advise us. We had to chase them when we never saw any action after we heard that foreclosure happened. And the rationale given to us was simply that the town did not want to pay the monthly condo fees by taking ownership of the unit. By law, a condo corporation is not allowed to waive fees for any individual owner. So our hands were tied on that part. By the town reneging on our original deal, we had to begin our own legal action. And let me bring this a little more into context. So not only did the town pay for legal fees and foreclosing, which you did, again, you just never had title transferred. We, being Woodland Place, now we're faced with paying for the exact same result. So paying for the same legal fees and delaying the process by over a year. I cannot stress much more damage occurred in this time, including cockroach infestation. There was a death on the property, unfortunately, numerous other issues, not to mention that every month that goes by meant loss of income for all the group of owners at Woodland Place. So the significant issues were both financial and to the residents of the complex. Fast forward to over a year, and as soon as we received title to the property in our name, we sent a check for over $7,000, which paid to the town all of the hard property taxes owed. I want to be clear that the taxes we paid were based on the assessed value of $88,000 for this unit. The appraised value is $33,000, and this is actually the range that we expect from the eventual sale of this property. I don't know if many of you have had a chance to look down at the pictures I included in the letter, but it's a pretty nasty file, to put it mildly. So we'll put all that aside for the moment. Sale proceeds on a typical foreclosure are distributed on a priority basis. And if there's no more money left for the lower priority claims, these get dismissed. We've had no choice, and we've decided to sell the property as is because there are extensive repairs to be done. I understand this was a concern for your administration when they were looking at foreclosing. Even the copper plumbing has been removed by the last owner. So far this property has cost Woodland Place over $83,000 to date, of which $51,000 alone are outstanding assessments. These $51,000 in assessments are priority number 2 on the distribution list, right behind your municipality's property taxes. So as you can see, there will not be any funds available to pay the town's interest and penalties portion of the statement. You may be thinking that since there not going to be any, or won't be any money left for lower priority claims, then, what am I doing here? Well, the reason I'm in front of you today is I want to have it noted that, you rescind the interest and penalties on file so as to avoid any potential complications with the eventual purchaser. We have to ensure that there are no encumbrances on title. And of course, your administration, as you're probably aware, does not have the authority to do this, but you do. So I am looking forward to a motion to rescind the tax penalties and interest on property number legal 33, condo plan number 9722088. And again, I appreciate your valued time.
Thank you, Dan. Questions from council? Councillor Adams always has a question, so that's why I'm looking at you. Okay, Councillor Adams on the town side. Any questions for Dan? I would like to thank you for your very thorough report. As you can see that we don't have a lot of additional questions for you. We have some questions for the town administration and business arising from delegations, which is just after this. Like I said, again, your report was very well done. So you have in essence left us speechless for now, which I appreciate with that report there. So thank you very much. And we'll be making a decision on that later in the meeting.
Fantastic. I appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Can I get a or Jeff? Okay, can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept this as information.
Okay, call to question those in favor, and that is carried.
All I was gonna say is you could, without bringing them back in, you might as well just proceed to 4A.
Okay,
Just.
okay,
Sorry, it would be, 4B.
4B.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move forward with 4B in instance of saving time. And Roland. If you can turn on the mic for the delegation too, please. Thank you.
Yes.
So I provided you with some of the background from administration. So number 33608 had fallen into property tax arrears. The property was listed at the town's auction in April of 2022. The property failed to sell at auction, and administration immediately proceeded to look into the next steps it could take. One of the options that we could have taken was the tax forfeiture title, disposing of the property and recovering funds and paying out the respective parties. Since there was a person's living in the unit at the time, this type of procedure was going to take some time and additional cost to vacate the premises. Prior to proceeding with this option, there was also some ambiguity with respect of the priority of the condo board and the town for their respective claims. Also taken into consideration was the state of the property and the resources it would require to undertake this option. Before proceeding with any option, administration sought further clarity around the claims matter to determine what options would successfully recover the most amount of taxes owing to the town. The condo's legal counsel also reached out to the town wishing to speak with the town's legal prior to entering into any agreement. Over the following months, the town's legal representation was in contact with the condo and its representatives negotiating an agreement. Some of the assurances that the town sought were not met and the process continued. Given the lack of certainty around the recoverable amount, the town did not wish to proceed in taking ownership or interest in the condo unit, as the risk of doing so would put the town in a position to not only collect the maximum amount of taxes that was feasible, it would also lose a substantial amount more. The condo carried on with their process, and while doing so, the town assisted them with the information they requested. During the process, the town did not hear of a confirmation as to its right to receive first priority with respect to the outstanding taxes. The town continued on its path to ensure that it would be able to recover the most amount of outstanding taxes that was possible. Administration has taken the appropriate steps to ensure the recovery of taxes throughout this matter. While lengthy in time and undertake the appropriate steps for cost recovery, this was required to protect the town's interest. To date, the condo corporation has paid a partial sum to the town of $7,111.51, representing the amount of taxes levied from 2018 to 2023. Left unpaid are amounts added to the tax roll as a result of penalties and $5,380, utility transfers of $6,554, and a tax notification of $45. For a total amount left unpaid of $11,974.52, owing as August 18th, 2023. Penalties, utility transfers, or other amounts added to a roll become part of the tax. There is no discernment between what is added to the roll, as any amounts added all become owing as tax due. As far as council's powers, I've listed the section 347 in the MGA that outlines where a council considered equitable to do so. It may generally, or with respect to a particular taxable property or business or class of taxable property, cancel or reduce tax arrears, cancel or refund part of a tax, or defer the collection of a tax. As the full amount of taxes is still owing and is still not yet been paid, penalties are still accruing on the account.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council? Steve, you had a question for administration?
My big thing, I guess, was did we actually not tell them that we are not going to do what was in the agreement or what we agreed to?
There was no,
Or did we ever
there
agree?
was no written agreement. We were exploring our options. Basically on this file, right even prior to the tax sale, even during the tax sale process, we had our legal assist with that and assist with this file and assist us throughout the whole kind of process.
If you want any more clarification in regards to legal, you'll have to go in closed session to get any more background as it relates to legal advice provided.
It's a quite lengthy, it was a quite lengthy process, like a lot of emails, a lot of working with our legal on options and paths forward and standing that. So, you know, I think for both parties, it was definitely one of the most challenging kind of files, just due to the state of the property that was in, what was going on there, and kind of the course of action that was best for the town to take.
Councilor Ferguson.
Am I incorrect in interpreting a report that penalties, fees, taxes, interest, it all moves first in line in collection? We wouldn't be at the very bottom? Or
That's the way it should happen when you do these matters. Of course, it's nothing's ever 100%. And throughout the process, while reaching out and trying to get that kind of agreement or guarantee, we never received that, other parties wouldn't want to maybe challenge that.
I don't know if anybody else has any questions, but I would like to defer this to closed before we make any sort of decision on this business arising from delegations.
I'm agreeable. to
Yeah,
that.
I would
Councillor
agree. I
Reese.
think I require more information to make an informed decision at this point, and I don't have it.
Can we add it to the closed session today, or does that require notice?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
And we
so I will entertain a motion then from Counselor Adams to defer this to closed.
Made that motion.
Yep, that's what I'm just struggling for words here. There's a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? I will call to question those in favor then. Okay, that is carried. And we'll defer that to closed session for the legal opinion. If we can bring counselors. We are going back. That was we're going back to A. So Bryce,
Please note the minutes.
thank you. So noted.
Musical chairs.
You're still. This one's. Thank you.
All right, not a whole lot to add here. The history on the account, so has been free and clear for the entire history of the account, with the exception of 2013, where there was 2 small penalties. In 2022, the tax levy was applied to the property tax roll. No payment received. The July penalty incurred at $274, August penalty of $823, October penalty of $1,000, and a January penalty of $1,500. Arrears letters were sent to the property owner preceding each of these penalties. The 2023 levy had also been issued this year, at which time full payment of all of the outstanding current taxes and penalties were paid in full on January 21st. The account as of today is fully paid and clear. Just as a note, it is the responsibility of the property owner to ensure their taxes are paid each year by the due date. And while section 347 of the MJ does allow council to reduce or cancel part of the tax, it also has to consider the equitability of doing so. And in instances like this, while unfortunate, residents both in good standing and not have been subject to penalty freeze from the late filing of taxes and have had to pay them.
Thank you. Questions from council? Counselor Randall.
Not so much a question, just a comment that, well, actually, yeah. So they get notices each time a penalty is levied, right?
Yeah.
So that's like October, January, April, June.
July, August, October, and January.
Okay, so in a course of a year, there's
1, 2, 3, 3 in the current year, and then the January one, which comes on January 1st, is for anything that's outstanding. So the first 3 in that year are for that year only. The penalties accrue on that. And then the January 1st penalty, let's say you had 5 years outstanding, it's on the whole balance that sits there.
right. So by the time he gets his new tax notice for this year, how many notices would he have received?
January 1, 2, 3, 4.
4.
I will clarify that he did state in his presentation that there was an address change. And again,
Yeah.
that is the responsibility of the task.
Yeah,
force to
exactly.
address- To
Yeah.
update the address. But the reason that was stated in the presentation for not receiving the notice was obviously.
Yeah, Yeah, no,
That's, just want to make sure that we had that.
thanks. I was aware. I was just.
Okay, good.
Just wanted to know how many it was in the course of a year. Just because, it is up to the taxpayer to change their address and we can't be chasing people, but I am not in favor of any sort of relief, unfortunately, Gord. Just because we have had other people at this table asking for the very same thing and we've said no to them. So if we say yes to you tonight, then we're gonna have to go back and rescind that and pay a whole bunch of other people too. So we don't want to be setting precedents. So.
Counselor Gramlich.
I somewhat differ for different circumstances and I either made the motion or voted on maybe Kimberly's motion for another group that had some, what we believe simple mistakes and we lost that vote, but I'll make a motion to waive Mr. Ferguson's fees by 50% to $1,893.56.
I will add my commentary into that. If there's no other commentary at the moment, I'm also in agreement with that waiver. I was in agreement with the partial waiver of the other one. I think in this circumstance, and I like to consider things on a circumstance by circumstance basis, and that's essentially what's presented for us in the way it's written in the MGA, that I believe this was an honest mistake, and mistakes do happen. And I think when a taxpayer to us and says that there was a mistake and that they recognize it and take ownership for it, that I do think we are able to waive some. So I am also in favor of that. Are there any further comments or questions from council? Councillor Adams.
Quick question, and this is my ignorance on this as well, but that first in July, the first one is a much lower percentage than the rest, or
Yes.
how does that work?
Yeah. I believe we stacked them again. I know we just adjusted in there, but I believe it's 2, 6, 8, 10.
I struggle with this because I know that I know the intent, well, in this situation, I know the intent of the party. I totally believe what you have to say. I do struggle much along the lines of what Julie was saying. But I find there's continually extenuating circumstances on no matter who's coming before council for us to be able to do or not do these things. And I do recognize the challenge with setting precedent, but then I do recognize the fact of how hard do we have to be on these things, especially when we're talking significant penalties as the year goes on, when a person doesn't know, but then how does the town not know when it's not going to that address? I struggle, sorry.
Councillor Brando.
Just a rebuttal to that too, everybody, there's consequences to not making deadlines. If you don't pay your credit card on time, there's consequences. You get interest charges. If you don't pay your mortgage on time, there's consequences. So just like any other business, the town has to run the business, and taxes are our business. So still not in favor.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there,
No, I just want to say, yeah, I kind of feel the same way as Steve. I see things from both points of view. A couple of weeks ago, Gord, I was kind of in your situation with another one of my suppliers where I just overlooked something. And for me, I knew that, okay, well, I made the mistake. I'm going to learn from this mistake. And that's the way sometimes I learn things, is by making a mistake, I think. So, and by not having a formula, and we have had other people come and delegate similar things, and I've kind of stayed on as a precedent. It's difficult to look at everything differently, I think. I do understand where you're at, but I probably would vote against this too.
any further comments? Councillor Hughes, would you like to weigh in?
I think both sides have been presented. We have been asked before, as you guys alluded to. I was in favor of providing some sort of relief for resident, just based on that situation as well. I don't think it's going to make or break us on penalties that we're not really knowing that we are or aren't going to have based on someone maybe not paying their taxes. So I am also on the other side of things, though, having, defeated their requests beforehand too is frustrating. I'm a little torn.
Councillor Moelle.
I'm going to jump into this too, because Gord, I do see this from your point of view. I actually came in between noon and 1 o'clock to do something, and I actually didn't have my pass card. Luckily, we do have these pass cards to get in, but I didn't have it then. But I've come through there, and I kind of expect that the most convenient time for lots of people, whether they're asking a question or paying a tax, is between 12 and 1 on their lunch break. So I would like maybe our administration to maybe look at opening 12 to 1.
Okay. I will let's table that request into question period, Ally, and then we can have more of a discussion during question period. So if you can bring that up then. Councillor Brando.
Just a question to the three of you. So if we vote against, for giving Mr. Ferguson some sort of relief tonight, are you prepared to go back to every other delegation that's just come back to our table?
I am, because there's only been one other one and I voted for it and got
I think
defeated.
there's more than that.
There will be more.
Yeah,
I believe under a circumstance by circumstance basis. And if we look at the MGA, it doesn't state that there needs to be, and this is my personal opinion, it doesn't need to state that there's a hard and fast rule for everyone. It does say that council can consider it equitable to do so. And it says with respect to a particular taxable property or business. So nowhere in the MGA does it say that we need to make a blanket statement for all properties. I like to see them on a case by case basis. I think that's important. I think it's important for the taxpayer to take the initiative to come in to do so. I also think that we are in the unique position that we can consider a break. And I personally would like to continue seeing it on a case by case basis. And I was also in favor previously, as I said previously like 3 times. I was in favor before of a partial waiver as well. I think the taxpayer needs to take responsibility for errors made, but I do think we have the option to have a break as well. So in a roundabout way, I would like to consider it on a case by case basis, and I don't believe a blanket statement is even appropriate for the MGA.
And I would second that too. I feel the same, at least in terms of the last time that we did this, the motion that I had made to, give 50% of the penalties did not pass, was defeated. And that really bothered me, given the circumstances. I felt that we could have done a little bit more in our situation, and that's bothered me a while since then. So yes, I would.
okay, so in budget, I would like to propose that we look at our penalties. Because if we're just going to waive them, what is the point of even having them?
We can definitely take a look at what's budgeted for penalties for the year. And I think in some situations it's appropriate, and that's my personal opinion, that in some it's not. And I think that's why it comes before us. So there is a motion. Oh, Counselor Adams, sorry. Continue.
You just like that side better.
There's a turning. I try to alternate.
I do appreciate what's actually coming out of this situation being brought forward. I like what you're bringing forward, and I think that does merit more debate. I do agree with your statement. I don't think everybody at home heard it, but in mirroring Councillor Wallam's point of view, but the more I think about this, and I have been struggling with it, I don't think I can do a forgiveness on this. So I think it's written in the rules. It's hard and fast. It is what it is, but thank you.
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor. Yep, further discussion going down there. He had his hand first.
I'm just gonna say that it is difficult to look at things on a case by case basis, because it is a small community and we do have personal relationships with almost every delegation that comes in here. So it does make it difficult looking at things case by case. So that's kind of the bind I'm in, is it's got to be one or the other, unless we can come up with a formula of some sorts.
Counselor Brandel.
I would say though also that due diligence on council is to remove the person from that. You should just be looking at the circumstances in this situation. You should not be looking at any of those other things when factoring into your decision making whatsoever, especially in a small town.
Counselor Brandel.
What we should be looking at is our policy. And our policy right now says that we have consequences and penalties. And you are going against those policies.
Let's vote. Okay, there is a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion from council?
Can you repeat the motion? I just made a
Councillor
motion
Mike.
that we waive the fees for 50% down to $1,893.56 for Mr. Ferguson.
Okay, Counselor Gramlich has made a motion. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, I will call to question those in favor. All those opposed. And I believe a timing that is defeated.
Yeah.
Thank you, Roland. Okay, so we have deferred 4B. And now if we can bring Councilor Ferguson back, please. And Jeff, once Bryce is back, this is your report.
Sweet report, just to summarize the 2 delegations. So the purpose of this report is to request a decision from council regarding the approval of the Homeless Coalition's application to the MPC Commission. So on August 15th, 2023, Stacey Carmichael attended the regular meeting of council as a delegation requesting approval from council to submit an application to MPC regarding a town property located at 810 6th Avenue Northwest for a temporary homeless shelter. Earlier this evening, Edie Clausen attended the meeting as a delegation opposed to the approval of the application to MPC regarding the town property at the same address. For the winter 2022 to spring 2023, the MAP program temporarily operated out of this location. That's in discussion for tonight. So in order to submit an application, the town of Slave Lake's chief administrative officer would have to sign the application for approval for the potential utilization of the location 810 6th Avenue Northwest for a temporary homeless shelter. So you have two options before you tonight, either direct administration to approve the application or to not authorize administration to approve the application.
Thank you. Questions or discussion from council? Councillor Adams.
I would like some clarification both for myself and for those in the audience and at home. What are the parameters for the MPC to make a decision on an application beyond what we decide here?
Well, I mean, that might be a better question suited towards your members of that are sitting on MPC. I mean, they're looking at the various factors of the application. They're looking at, you know, does it conform to the zoning requirements of the location? Does it meet the guidelines that are set or already established, you know, from the planning department? I mean, there's a number of factors, I believe, but
So they weigh in use as well as what the rules are
I believe so.
and exceptions too.
And exceptions too.
That is correct, and it is weighed in based on, as Lorraine stated multiple times during the meeting, what makes good planning sense is, I believe, the exact phrasing that we hear on most MPC meetings.
And then at that MPC, oh, sorry, Bryce. Sorry. At that MPC, then there's a chance for discussion from both sides on this, and there's also an appeals process as well.
The chance for discussion is generally, it's not a situation where there's delegations to and from that occur for MPC. It's just whoever has put forth the application is invited to make a presentation. There isn't an opposing side heard, although generally affected business owners are contacted once the decision is made. That's how the process goes. So MPC would hear from the Homeless Coalition with regards to this application. MPC would then render their decision. MPC meetings are public, but there is generally same thing as we have here, no discussion from the gallery. That being said, then there is a decision made by MPC. At that point, if the decision exists, if it is approved, then there is letters sent out to neighboring businesses and residents advising of the decision and then identifying the process for appeal. Should the decision be denied at MPC, then there is also the possibility for appeal from whoever submitted the initial application. So there's appeal ways that can go both sides, and that goes to the regional SDAB board. And so the regional SDAB board doesn't have regular meetings. It's called when there's items for discussion. So that would mimic the process similar to last year. I think I covered that. Councillor Ferguson.
So I have some comments to make, so please bear with me for a few minutes. So first off, I recognize that this is a sensitive topic. I can appreciate and understand that nobody wants a homeless shelter in their backyard. As a council, we are left in a position where no matter what decision we make, there will be people who are unhappy with that. People who are for and against the location are our friends, neighbors, co-workers, etc., and their thoughts and opinions are important and taken well into consideration. These are not easy decisions to make. A number of concerns have been brought up about the proposed shelter. I recognize that there are a group of unsavory individuals in town who commit theft, but is it necessarily fair to or factual to see someone who may appear homeless and automatically blame it on the shelter? Many of these issues already existed in the neighborhood before last season and currently exist throughout town. The shelter somewhat becomes the easy target. The shelter exists to respond to a problem that already exists. I don't believe it is responsible for creating the problem. As a councillor last winter season, I heard next to no concerns about it. I'm certain that this is likely the case with most of council as well. The town owns a huge piece of infrastructure next door, the fire hall, and we heard no concerns from them either, despite being directly adjacent to it. That being said, I also recognize that the impact to the local neighborhood is not zero. No matter what, there will be some degree of impact to the local neighborhood. This is true for any potential location. As a council, we need to determine if this is a priority. Homelessness is in our strategic plan, so I would assume it is a priority for council. Secondly, we also need to recognize that the availability of appropriately zoned locations is essentially non-existent. If we don't approve the use of this land, this issue is not going away. If the coalition is somehow able to find another location, it will likely end up back at this table for a zoning change somewhere else. Once again, our phones will ring and our email inboxes will be full of residents and businesses in that area, not favor of it in that location either. If council doesn't approve this location and another location is not found, are we willing to have no emergency shelter this year? This is a very likely outcome if we don't approve usage for one more winter season. For me personally, it's a matter of risk. I understand this is not an ideal location permanently, and I have no desire for this location to turn into the de facto permanent location. However, the risk of not approving for another winter season is high. It very likely may mean that several of the roughly 50 different people who used the shelter last year will have to sleep outside in extreme weather conditions. It likely means that the roughly 2,000 bed nights provided by the shelter last year will cease to exist, likely forcing people to sleep outside. No one wants anyone to freeze to death. However, I also recognize that residents and businesses should have peaceful use of their properties as much as possible. No, I don't believe it is an ideal permanent location. I also don't believe a perfect location will ever be found that has 100% consensus from the community. Given the lack of available alternatives and the risk of not having an emergency shelter for this season, I am hesitantly willing to support this location for one more season and would strongly encourage the Homeless Coalition to work with all earnestness to find another location for future seasons. So that's my 2 cents, or maybe 5 paragraphs.
Councillor Moellem.
This is really, really, really challenging for me. I grew up here. I've been here all my life. And we were just at Big Fish Bay last week with a number of families and had a great time. And all I could think about was being a kid, well, being younger and seeing the Point Steakhouse, where it was in its old location, and what that could have brought to tourism if everything worked. Where Slave Lake would be in all of Alberta. And things didn't work out, but I always kind of think about, someone had a vision back then and someone put something so spectacular here. If we could have built around it, if we could have put a hotel beside it, if we could have put a casino there, if we could have, could there have been more development along there? Like, where would Slave Lake be now? And I kind of, when you go to Big Fish Bay and you see kind of what's all there as well, it's difficult, I think, to see that as a permanent location and to see that, a homeless shelter could be across the street from there. I think that would affect tourism in our region. So that's what really, really, really makes it challenging. I know it's not a long-term fix. Could it work for 1 year? Is there better locations out there? I'm certain that there has to be a better location somewhere out there. But it is really, really, really challenging.
I'll just weigh in with more of what has already been said. It's not a new conversation. It's the same old process every year. And we just don't have a location. If it doesn't go here, I don't know where it's going to go. So it becomes more of a question of, are we going to have it or not? Not even a question about location, because if we put it over here, then they're going to be upset. If we put it over here, they're going to be upset. If we put it over here, they're going to be upset. And there just is no getting around the NIMBY at all. So I honestly don't know. I understand nobody wants it in their backyard. But what do you do?
Today, Stacy had the pleasure of presenting at the airport. So she mentioned there's 4 possible locations. So I don't know if any of them work, but at this point, we're not really approving this. It still has to go to MPC. All we're giving them is this group an opportunity to bring it to MPC and see what happens. So there's not even a lot to debate right now. Like, do we think this group should get to go to MPC or not? That's the only discussion. And I think they should at least get to go to MPC and plead their case.
I will, or do you want to weigh in? Then I will.
I was just gonna say thank you for that reminder, because I think it's easy to get caught up in the bigger picture here, of course. And I would have to agree with that assessment as well, as much as I don't think that this is the ideal location. And I want to find a permanent location that will be 100% accepted, which probably will not happen. You are right. This process today is about sending it to MPC, and I guess due process is called for in this situation. That's what we're here for. So.
I will chime in as that seems to be the theme. I struggle with this. As town council, it's our job to protect all residents, including housed and unhoused. That is our job, as part of it, is to consider the interest of everyone. That being said, I am incredibly frustrated. I am frustrated on behalf of the businesses and the residents that engagement was essentially an afterthought. This could have been done months ago. So I do have extreme frustration, and I share in all of your concerns with that. I think part of being good neighbors is having conversations with each other about what's going on, whether or not we like the outcome of a decision. We all make votes here all the time that all of us may not agree on, but we still engage in discussion about it. I do believe there are other possible locations, but they do require effort and they do require planning, such as the option across from Highway 88. So in my personal opinion, I would strongly encourage the Homeless Coalition to improve engagement with the businesses and to look for alternative locations, as I don't believe right across from one of the largest tourism draws in our region is necessarily the most appropriate place. I could be proven wrong on that if the location search falls short, but we haven't been presented with other options. So I would like to see those other, and I understand we don't have any accessibly zoned options right now. So I do recognize that in a time crunch, we are incredibly limited. I do agree that this right now is about process and going through to MPC. So I can understand that. But if we are giving a second chance to this location for another year, I would strongly encourage that some of the things that were promised to the residents and the businesses in that area be followed through on. So that would be my 2 cents there. Councillor Adams.
All right, I'll wait. Part of what was tied in, or what you said, Councillor Moellem, actually reminds me of back when I was younger and before there was even a campground in there, and we'd walk through the trails out to the beach. But they had the homeless in there already, even at that time. It's I know, going back away. Shush.
You said the 30s. So
Dirty
I didn't say 30s.
I did.
Easy now. But it's come a long way. That development in there is fantastic to see what can happen with a shared partnership and see it being successful. Again, the reach out, from what I've understand from the coalition, has been already searching for a permanent location, not an additional emergency location. What I see with this possibility for another year, seeing where the coalition is going and the grounds are making under their new executive director, I think is making already leaps and bounds above what we've seen in the past. And I think each year that the coalition operates, it gets better and better and is learning from its mistakes. We got to remember that the coalition has been young. And homeless has been an issue forever. So for an emergency shelter to go into this location again, it makes sense because it's easy. Do we need to have this go on and on and on? I do not like this. I don't like doing this for a second year when we were promised 1 year. We asked if they wanted multiple years at that time, and they told us no. So I do struggle with this, but at the same time, I am faced with a lack of decision, or a lack of option, I should say, a little bit of decision in what to do with this. That's my 2 bits.
Any further discussion? Would anyone like to make a motion?
Jeff, how do you need the motion? Just direct administration to approve the application? Okay, I will make that motion then.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Okay, call to question those in favor. And that is carried. I will take a brief pause because I understand that the majority of you were here for the Homeless Coalition decision. We do have a long meeting tonight, so if you do not wish to stay, now would be your time to exit, and we're also going to take a break for 10 minutes. 10 minutes, please.
We're going right now?
Yeah, we're going to go on a break right now. Thank you, everyone. Really. Okay, we're going to continue on with administrative rates bylaw 15/2023. Jason?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The purpose of this report is to propose an annual fee of $10,000 for service to be added to bylaw number 15/2023 for neighboring municipalities who want the town of Slave Lake to administer their rural renewal stream program on their behalf under the town's current rural renewal program structure. A little bit of background. The rural renewal stream supports the attraction and retention of newcomers to rural Alberta through a community-driven approach that supports local economic development needs and contributes to the growth of the community. The rural renewal stream empowers rural communities to recruit and retain foreign nationals to live, work, and settle in their communities. Communities must apply for and become designated before they can recruit and endorse candidates for the rural renewal stream. Candidates with an endorsement of candidate letter from a designated community can then apply using the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program portal. The town of Slave Lake received community designation as part of the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program Rural Renewal Stream on March 10th, 2023. Community designation status will last until March 10th, 2026, at which point there is an option to extend the designation by an additional 2 years if both the government of Alberta and the town of Slave Lake are in agreement. The government of Alberta reserves the right in its sole discretion to terminate the designation upon 60 days written notice. Each municipality has the flexibility to manage the rural renewal stream as they see fit, so long as candidate and employer eligibility requirements set by the government of Alberta are met. In communication with other municipalities, there has been varying degrees of success across the province. However, one common theme from all municipalities that have received community designation is that they underestimated the amount of staff time and resources that would be required to administer the program. This has led to some municipalities to withdraw from the program, including Big Lakes County. Quoted on June 16th, 2023, unfortunately, it has been determined that the workload described in the June 8th, 2022 request for decision is not the reality of the time committed to manage the program, and the workload has increased tremendously due to the enormous amount of interest in the program. He noted 15 businesses, 12 in High Prairie and 3 in Big Lakes County are interested in the program. Compared to the Big Lakes County Rural Renewal Stream process and framework, the town of Slave Lake places more responsibility on the employers by requiring them to manage the hiring process and take a lead role in assisting candidates settle into the community, including but not limited to assisting candidates in finding housing and in ensuring they have safe and a reliable way to get to work, particularly in the winter months. Since March 2023, there's been some updated numbers. 21 employers have been approved to participate in the town of Slave Lake Rural Renewal Stream program. Note that 21 is more than the combined 15 from High Prairie and Big Lakes County. Additionally, 27 letters of endorsement have been issued to candidates for vacancies from 11 different local employees. Out of 27 letters of endorsement, 14 have been issued to true newcomers, with the vast majority coming from India, and 13 letters of endorsement have been issued to existing residents that are here living and working in Slave Lake on temporary foreign worker visas or other work permits. These candidates are using the rural renewal stream to obtain their permanent residency. The first letters of endorsement were issued by the town of Slave Lake at the beginning of May. To date, no candidates have made it entirely through the application process with the government of Alberta and the government of Canada. It typically takes about 3 to 9 months to get through the entire program from start to finish based on the individual candidate. When presenting the rural renewal stream to council in December 2022, the Economic Development Department estimated the program would consume approximately 20% of the department's total time. That estimation remains accurate based on the current workload. This would increase if other municipalities want the town of Slave Lake to administer their program administer the rural renewal stream on their behalf. Some discussion. Administration has been tasked with providing an option for neighboring municipalities to allow the town of Slave Lake to administer the rural renewal stream on their behalf for an annual fee of $10,000 to cover administration time. This fee is not to act as a revenue generator, but rather to recoup staff costs associated with the administration of the program. In order to participate in the program, partner municipalities must agree that their RRS program operate under the current town of Slave Lake RRS process and framework. Minor changes would be required to the existing framework, including the removal of the town of Slave Lake business license and physical address requirements for businesses outside Slave Lake. There would be no significant changes to the town of Slave Lake RRS process. Given the potential expansion of this program to our neighboring communities and municipalities, there is a potential need to utilize the fees collected to add a program coordinator or assistant position to manage the program. The offer to administer the RRS program will be sent to the following 3 municipalities: the MD of Lesser Slave River, Big Lakes County, and the MD of Opportunity. The Sawridge First Nation has already asked to participate and has been accepted into the Town of Slave Lake RRS program, with one employer currently approved, the Sawridge Travel Center. The Sawridge do not anticipate any other Sawridge employers to participate in the program. As such, in the spirit of reconciliation and recognizing that there is only one Sawridge employer utilizing the program, it is recommended that the Town of Slave Lake waive the annual fee for the Sawridge First Nation. Two options before council today. Option one, task administration to send letters to the MD of Lesser Slave River, Big Lakes County, and the MD of Opportunity, offering to administer their RRS program on their behalf for an annual fee of $10,000 under the current Town of Slave Lake RRS process and framework. Bylaw number 15/2023, administrative rates bylaw, would need to be amended to include the annual fee. Option two is task administration to continue administering the RRS stream solely for the Town of Slave Lake and Sawridge First Nation. Potential resource impacts. If option one is selected, there will be an increase in workload for the Economic Development Department if any of the municipalities accept the offer. If all three neighboring municipalities accept the town's offer, it is likely that additional support staff would be required. The additional staff would be funded through the annual fees collected through the town, by the town, sorry. Communication strategy. Letters will be sent to the neighboring municipalities. Those draft letters are included in your agenda package. For those municipalities that accept the town's offer, they will remain responsible for communicating to businesses in their jurisdiction that they are participating in the Town of Slave Lake RRS program and provide links to the Town of Slave Lake RRS stream portal that is located on our website. This report supports our strategic plan in both good governance and relationships and partnerships with details provided in your report. Recommendation is that council proceed with option one. And if so, you have two motions in front of you. Move to task administration to send letters to the MD of Lesser Slave River, Big Lakes County, and the MD of Opportunity, offering to administer their RRS program on their behalf for an annual fee of $10,000 under the current Town of Slave Lake RRS process and framework. That would be your first motion. And then if you proceed with that motion, the second motion would be to give first, second, and third reading to the revised administrative rates bylaw number 15/2023, which is also included in your agenda package. Any questions or comments?
Councillor Adams.
Quick question on the Sawridge First Nations part.
Yep.
The way it's worded there, I was wondering, has this already been approved and it's in the existing
Yeah,
framework?
so yeah,
Okay.
that's correct.
Good.
So the Sawridge Travel Center approached me almost immediately after we accepted community designation and asked to participate in the program. I then stated that a letter of support would be required from chief and council to participate in the program. They provided that letter sometime later in May. I then informed the government of Alberta that the Sawridge First Nation was participating in our program, and they added that to our list.
Excellent.
Councillor Ferguson.
Well, thank you for bringing this forward, Jason. I guess just a quick question. What happens if your work starts becoming more value than 10,000 that you're providing for other municipalities?
That's when we would bring additional capacity online through a sorry.
Yes, but I mean, like in terms of reimbursement from the neighboring municipality, because otherwise then in a roundabout way, we're kind of funding it for them then through our staff.
It would depend on where it would depend to some extent as to what's generating the extra work. I mean, we put this program through on a town initiative with really there was a push or a request from council to implement this program with really zero adjustment to the budget that was placed, especially within this department. So depending on what's generating that extra work, that maybe if it was beyond the realm of what we potentially could recover or help fund like an additional support staff, then that would be a discussion or further analysis as to what's generating the extra work and do we have to allocate more funds on the town side of the house to support this program if it's still a priority of council. So it depends is the answer.
Councillor Adams. Who's got hands up?
When this was first brought forward, I thought we were talking around the $15,000 range. What made it change down to the 10? Just assessment of what it's going to impact or how, like, I know we're doing it as a cost recovery, I guess, but.
It just was a number that we felt would help offset based on the potential workload. I mean, it's up for council to change the dollar amount. It's before you tonight. We could change it. It's not based on any other projections other than basically some loose figuring as to what the potential impact could
So
be.
if we
of
do
other-
feel this is draining our resources excessively, we can adjust or terminate the contract.
Correct, yeah, or fund it more appropriately through the town side as well. There's a number of options that are available to you. Any fees that are in our bylaws can always be brought back for renewal or review.
But
And
we'll be under
adjustments to-
agreement with the other towns, right? Now,
Yeah, it would be on a year by year basis, right?
thank you.
Counselor Moallem?
Can you see any other regional economic development things that we may be doing locally that could benefit them as well to maybe further additional subscription to something else?
Sorry, I don't quite understand
I'm
the question.
just, at one time, we did have a regional economic development alliance, I guess.
Yeah.
And they were funded by subscription, kind of membership.
Oh, yeah.
So
okay.
So I'm wondering if down the road, should we be looking at the government at doing that again if
Yeah.
we all kind of face the same sort of challenges?
Yeah, okay, sorry. Sorry for the misunderstanding. Yes, we did have a ready in the region and it did expire several years ago. I actually was approached by the government of Alberta to see if the town of Slave Lake would be interested in partnering with one of our neighboring readies. And the one that was suggested to us by the government of Alberta is the one to the south of us. Kind of where Barhead, the Barhead area. So I had a very preliminary and exploratory discussion with them just to see what they're all about and how their organization functions. And so that's definitely open in the future.
But unrelated to the
Yeah,
matter.
totally unrelated to rural renewal stream.
Yeah.
Counselor Adams?
I like the idea of the partnership. I feel it's a good way to benefit our entire community, and I feel pulling in these additional workers and helping the region is also going to benefit Slave Lake on the side, not just having to deal with Slave Lake on its own. To that end, I'd like to make a motion. I move to task administration to send letters to the MD of Lesser Slave River, Big Lakes County MD of Opportunity, offering to administer their rural renewal stream program on their behalf for an annual fee of $10,000 under the current town of Slave Lake rural renewal stream process and framework.
Okay, there is a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried. Counselor Ferguson?
Move that council gives first reading to administrative rates bylaw number 15, 2023 as amended.
The motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried. Counselor Hughes?
I move that council gives second reading to administrative rates bylaw number 15-2023 as amended.
Any further discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried. Pick one of you.
Move that council gives unanimous consent for third reading of bylaw number 15, 2023 as amended.
Any further discussion? Call to question. Those in favor? And that is carried. Counselor Moallem?
I'll move that council gives third reading of bylaw 15-2023 as amended.
Any further discussion? Call to question. Those in favor? And that is carried. Continuing on.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. The next report is the introduction of a commercial and industrial municipal tax incentive bylaw. The purpose of this bylaw is to encourage the development or revitalization of non-residential properties. So non-residential is being defined as commercial and or industrial, and machinery and equipment in the town of Slave Lake for the general benefit of the municipality. It's also to establish tax exemptions for eligible property in accordance with section 364.2 of the Municipal Government Act, where there is a new development or a renovated development that meets the criteria and requirements set out in this bylaw. It also provide a process for an application for a tax exemption under this bylaw and provide a process for review by council of the refusal or cancellation of a tax exemption under this bylaw. The draft, I should mention, the draft bylaw has gone through 2 different rounds of legal review to ensure in compliance with the Municipal Government Act. This bylaw aims to provide a municipal tax incentive to attract commercial and industrial investors and promote expansion by existing investors through providing an exemption to a portion of municipal property taxes attributable to the differential between the pre-construction assessment and the post-construction assessment for eligible property. The tax exemption would only apply to the increase in improvement assessment. So it's not the total value of the assessment, it's the pre-construction, post-construction difference, whether that's a new development or you're renovating an existing property. New developments and renovated developments may be eligible for an exemption if the following criteria are met. The subject property must not have any tax arrears or amounts owing on utilities or other town fees. The subject property must not have development compliance issues, be in violation of a development agreement, be in violation of any town bylaws, or be in violation of the Safety Codes Act at any time during the taxation years for which the exemption applies. All applicable municipal, provincial, and federal approvals and permits must be in place. Registered property owner and the assessed person are not involved in any form of litigation, including an assessment review board complaint with the town. The current improvement assessment for the subject property must have increased by at least 50,000 compared to the base assessment year, and that's up for discussion. The change in valuation for the assessment of land is excluded from this calculation. The business operating on the subject property must have a current town of Slave Lake business license. Subject property must be located in an area zoned for the applicable commercial industrial land use district within the town. And the subject property must comply with requirements as stated in the town land use bylaw. And linear property is not eligible for an exemption or tax incentive agreement under this bylaw. For the application for an exemption, the assessed person of the subject property must complete a complete application to the town. The town has the discretion to refuse or reject applications, including for reasons of an application being incomplete or addressing an eligible property. As part of the complete application, the assessed person must agree to enter into a tax incentive agreement with the town. Complete applications must be received by June 30th of the year prior to the year in which the requested exemption is to commence. Any complete application received after June 30th of the given year will be considered for an exemption for the following tax year. The town may require any additional information that, in the discretion of the town, is necessary to complete the application. The town will advise an assessed person in writing if their application is accepted for consideration, refused, or rejected. For the consideration of applications, the CAO shall receive and consider complete applications within the provisions of this bylaw and may consult with, obtain information from, and verify information with other employees or agents of the town, other governments, government agencies, or persons. The CAO may also require the assessed person to provide any documents the town deems necessary to verify any information contained in a complete application. The CAO will consider each complete application and shall either grant the exemption and enter into a tax incentive agreement or reject the application and advise the assessed person with written reasons as to why the application was rejected. A tax incentive agreement will be required for all granted exemptions and must be entered into prior to any exemption taking into effect. The exception will be available for eligible property commencing with the 2023 assessment year and shall operate in accordance with the terms of this bylaw until such time as this bylaw is amended or repealed. Cancellation of the exemption. If at any time after the exemption is granted, the town determines that the assessed person or the registered property owner, their application, or the subject property did not meet or cease to meet any of the criteria in which form the basis of granting the exemption. If the current taxes are not paid in full by December 31st of any year, or there was a breach of any condition of the tax incentive agreement, the CAO may cancel the exemption for the taxation year or years in which the criterion was not met or to which the condition applied. Appeal to council. An assessed person may appeal to council in the following situations. An application for exemption is refused or rejected. Exemption is canceled for one or more taxation years. A tax incentive agreement is canceled, or the content of the tax incentive agreement is inconsistent with this bylaw or the act. Remedies available to council upon conclusion of an appeal, or council may uphold, vary, or revoke a decision of the CAO with respect to the outcome of an application or cancellation of exemption or tax incentive agreement, and or council can revise or direct the CAO to revise a tax incentive agreement. Applications for judicial review of a decision pursuant to this tax incentive bylaw must be filed with the Court of King's Bench and served not more than 60 days after the date of the decision. So up for discussion for council tonight is essentially the minimum value for the increase in assessment and the percentage of tax exemption for each category of assessment. So before you in the discussion section is a table for calculation. And once again, this is just for the increase in the assessment value. So the one table shows the different assessment categories. I've broken them down into 50 to 100,000, 100 to 500,000, 5 to 1 million, 1 million to 5, and 5+. And then under that, you'll see the corresponding tax exemptions that would be provided. With the minimum only getting a 1-year tax exemption of 75% and so on. The second table I put in front of you are the potential rebates for folks that wish to take advantage of this program. So for example, if someone increased their property by 50 to 100,000 in the range of 50 to 100,000, they'll be get a 1-year tax exemption of 75% on the increased improvement assessment. And once again, this is based on the non-residential mill rate established in bylaw 03/2022. So the potential rebate based on those numbers would be anywhere from $520 to just over $1,000 based on that investment, based on that increase in assessment value and so on. So really what we're looking for today is if you do not agree with these tax exemption values or percentages, to provide revised ones or accept the bylaw as presented. So once again, the 3 options in front of you are council can accept the bylaw as presented, council can accept the bylaw with revisions, or council can reject the bylaw. Resource impacts, staff time for both the finance and economic development and communications department. The communications strategy, the draft bylaw was sent to both the Economic Development Advisory Committee and the Chamber of Commerce for review and comment on August 3rd, 2023. If ratified, notice of the tax incentive bylaw will be posted on social media channels and on the town website, as well as sent to the District Chamber of Commerce, apologies for the typo, and the Economic Development Advisory Committee for distribution to its membership. This bylaw supports the strategic plan objective of economic health, and the motion is in front of you. Any questions or concerns or comments, I should say?
Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Jason. That was very thorough. I appreciate administration for coming up with something as innovative as this. Just a question, how did administration come up with the numbers and the percentages? Was that?
Great question. So what I did is I conducted a pretty thorough research exercise across municipalities with municipalities across the province that have enacted similar bylaws. The change to the Municipal Government Act was just enacted a couple of years ago that municipalities could actually do this. So a lot of municipalities have signed up since then, and this is actually a combination of a few jurisdictions where I looked at of similar size and kind of similar economic demographics, and that's how I've come up with the values in front of you today.
Thank you.
Councillor Adams.
Questions, but I'm going to tie the first one off what Bryce said. So in these other municipalities that you've had, what kind of success rate have they had with this?
That I don't know, and we'll have to come back to you because a lot of these bylaws are very new.
Okay.
The rates seen in front of you today come from Lethbridge County and from the town of Barhead. It's kind of a combination of both. This original idea actually came from Mackenzie County. And we originally drafted a bylaw very similar to theirs, but that was actually deemed not compliant with the MGA based on our first legal review. So we did some significant revisions based on that legal review to come up with this revised bylaw.
Okay, my next question. So we're applying this to commercial properties. One of the concerns I have is one of the rules that are subject criteria you have in there is must comply with requirements stated in the town land use bylaw. Geez, I can't speak tonight. But as we know, half of the downtown core does not comply with the land use bylaw. So if they're going to expand or do whatever they're going to do, they can't comply and or they won't apply for this unless they change to enact with the current bylaw.
Well, you'd never be able to make a program that says that actively is promoting you not to abide.
Oh,
by
I get that,
bylaw,
but I
right?
mean,
So-
the minimum requirement, for example, is 2 floors on Main Street. And half of Main Street's 1 floor. So for them to expand out or to do any other sort of assessment improvements, that assessment improvement would have to include a 2nd floor is what we're.
They'd have to be
dictating.
compliant for their land use. That's correct. Yes. They would have to be compliant. So it may,
You're just written off
for those that are not compliant, it may exclude them from consideration. They always have the option to appeal, but there's really no way for us to build into this process that they don't have to be compliant. Otherwise, you'll just further the problem even further. You'll have more non-compliance happening, more.
We've
more-
already approved that for a certain building that we approved already. And we were told that that's okay.
Yeah.
So how is this putting that? I get building something new, we can't do that, but existing buildings. I mean, I even take my building that I have on Main Street. If I wanted to do this and expand out into my parking lot, I couldn't do it, even though it would double the value of my building. Under this rule,
Correct, as it's written right now. That's correct.
which is more than half of downtown, we're saying no to now. Which is the
Potentially.
intent of us doing this, is it not?
It's not just for downtown.
Well, I know
It's
it's
for
not just for
commercial or
downtown.
industrial. It's for commercial or industrial. So,
Mhm.
I mean, you're speaking to a percentage
Half
of
our income
your
tax base,
entire non-residential area, right? I mean, essentially, we're looking at non-residential. I mean, if you have a suggestion as to how we should deal with non-compliance and continue, I mean, we can take that back if you're asking us to remove that requirement of
I
compliance
get
to the
not
land
knowingly
use.
doing it, but like, we take optometry, let's use that example. And we're allowing that to go forward in all its renovations and how extensive it is, even though it doesn't comply with the zoning. So that's fine to do, yet we're saying,
Doesn't it comply now that we've,
Yeah, is it not,
Change the
did we
zoning?
not change the zoning for that?
we
to
changed
allow-
it to a C4, but
Right.
the extensive renovations on it were kicked in something else. Remember we were talking about that?
But isn't that why we?
Or did we just
We
change the zoning?
we changed the zoning to C
Then
four?
that solved it?
Yeah,
I didn't think it solved that part.
that was what solved it.
Okay. That's all the questions I had.
Are you sure?
Well, I don't agree with it, but I mean,
Well,
It is.
Well, I kind of want to pick on that a little bit more too, though. Like, if we don't feel that, people within the main area as well, like that is part of it, support and promote local business. That's part of that strategic priority is partially the downtown core as well as the industrial. So if we don't feel that this is going to fit with some of that, then how successful is this going to be? I guess.
Will legal let us take that part out as an alternative? That's the
I'm
only.
not saying take it out. I'm just wondering how we can
I wouldn't want to.
word it for, I don't want someone to come in on bare land and suddenly build a one-story place in the downtown core. That's an obvious violation of the land use bylaw. That I totally agree with, shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
If we're talking, we're trying to encourage mixed use, we're trying to expand the businesses there. I'll grab mine as an example, just because I got a parking lot in the back end. And I wanted to wipe that out and go from boundary to boundary like I'm allowed. That would double the retail space in the area, whatever case it may be. I can't do that under this program. That I don't think is right unless they're to go up.
Now, just something to consider. You do have, I mean, the issues really in what you're explaining are not with the program, but rather with the
Downtown
zoning,
core.
with the zoning of the current zoning on some of these properties, right? And the conditions that go with it.
That's C1 zone.
That's right. So, but not necessarily the tax incentive program itself. So you have before you coming up very soon, your major land use bylaw and your planning documents are due for review, right? And so as a result of that review, maybe there's changes that are made to C1, maybe there's changes that are made to bring those businesses into compliance.
I'm not saying that there's something wrong with the C1 zoning. I do agree that we should be trying to encourage multi-floor growth or buildings, especially new ones in the C1 zone. What I'm saying is the ones that are existing, we are exempting more than half the commercial zone or commercial buildings in the downtown from being able to participate in this program because of that one statement.
Well,
And
I
I'm
would,
just using mine as an example.
I would disagree. I think it's because of the land use, it's the land use definition, not because of the policy. And you have an opportunity to change or to amend even what that C1 includes. Or if it even exists in the future, through your review of those documents. I think your issue is with the definition of the zoning, not the policy itself. I don't know how you defer from allowing it, building in a policy that just allows for that you don't have to be compliant. I take your concerns. I find value in them, but I think the problem is actually,
Because we're gonna find a challenge with expansion on that whole stretch in the industrial area along the airport side. Those will be exempt from this. Half the downtown core will be exempt from this. And then I'm trying to think what else would be exempt on the party.
But
Oh,
they,
sorry, I'm not supposed to direct.
but they can also come directly to council if it's refused, and council can then approve it, right? Is that correct?
council has the option to, as an appeal process.
So I mean, there's always that option that exists.
I'm just, yeah, I was contemplating as you were talking, if there was some way for the business owners who are applying to this to appeal, because this, or if there was some type of clause that we can put in for that.
Yeah, you're right, the appeal process.
Appeal process, if that's preserved, I think would solve our concerns.
So one of the complications is going to be, though, is that this is a process that takes effect after the construction's been done. So after that, that increase to assessment has taken place and it's been reassessed. So I don't think you'll actually get, let's take your business, for example, and you put in an application to expand and go and take up your whole parking lot or some sort of construction project that's in violation of or in conflict of the land use bylaw. You may never even get to this process if it doesn't get through that exception or that change anyway. This program only takes effect after construction's done. So all the permits are done, everything's signed off, everything's hunky-dory. It's been reassessed and there's been a change or an increase to assessment. Then they apply.
So
You won't even get to that stage if you're
Jeff
trying to
stated,
build
everything's hunky-dory.
a playground where it's not supposed to be.
So then why do we have that statement in there if it has to get through that process to begin with?
Well, because you could potentially have an existing building that's doing a substantial renovation or upgrade that's going to increase to the assessed value. It wouldn't necessarily need to have gotten, I mean, it's possible, and maybe it is counterproductive. It wouldn't get to that stage. They wouldn't get through the approval process if it was still in conflict of their zoning, but I don't know how we get around taking that section out necessarily in this case.
I don't see that either. But if there is the process in place for A, appeal, or B, that it's got to go through.
There is, as it relates to this, right? And just as there's an appeal process for MPC for permits and building construction and any sort of projects, right? There's an appeal process for both.
Perfect. Counselor Moala.
I'll make a motion that council gives first reading to commercial and industrial tax incentive bylaw number XX-2023.
That should be 18 for the record.
Okay.
18 dash, yeah, sorry.
Okay. I didn't have an 18. Okay,
Let's do.
I'll move that council gives first reading to commercial and industrial tax incentive bylaw number 18-2023.
There's a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor, and that is carried. Counselor Hughes.
I will move that council gives second reading to commercial and industrial tax incentive bylaw number 18-2023.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor, and that is carried. Counselor Adams.
I move that council gives unanimous consent for a third reading of commercial industrial tax incentive bylaw 18-2023.
Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor, and that is carried. Counselor Brandel.
I move that council gives third reading to commercial and industrial tax incentive bylaw 18-2023.
Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor, and that is carried. Moving on. Update to fees and fire services. Alex.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. The purpose of this report is to update the fire services bylaw. We've added an amendment to the fees. So the bylaw was updated in 2023, January of 2023. At that time, we did not have COTS or a section for the rental of those items. So in May 2023, the town of Slave Lake, along with the MD of Lesser Slave River, agreed to a joint purchase of 800 cots, along with storage and some blankets and pillows and storage for those things, and sea cans, sorry. So we added a Schedule D of the Fire Services bylaw, which is the last page of the bylaw that you have in front of you. In addition, this addition covers the fees for rental cots, cleaning, transportation, and replacement if required. Also included are the costs for the purchase of blankets and pillows. These items would be non-returnable and will be replaced with new ones as required. So on Schedule D, we've added the cots at a fee of $75 for a 7-day period. So it would be based on a 7-day week. Blankets, pillows for $50 or $35 and $20. Cleaning and transportation at cost recovery, and lost or damaged cots, a replacement fee of $150 per cot. So the recommendation in front of you is to update the Fire Services Bylaw 03/2023 with the amendment to Schedule D. Any questions?
Counselor Adams.
Dumb question for you. Why are we doing a discount on package deal with pillows and blankets?
Just because it's easier to replace them when we go to order them. The companies that we sourced did have some cheaper items.
So we get it for
package deal.
less as well,
Yeah.
kind of thing? Okay.
And we did increase the cost for inflation over the next few years. Just so we don't have to redo the bylaw every time the prices increase.
Counselor Wallen.
Think this asset's gonna depreciate if we use it or if we don't, so we might as well use it as much as we can.
Counselor Ferguson.
That move that council gives first reading to the Fire Services bylaw number 03/2023.
Any further discussion? Call the question, those in favor? And that is carried. Counselor Gramlich.
I'll move the council give second reading to Fire Services bylaw number 03/2023.
Any further discussion? Call the question, those in favor? And that is carried. Counselor Adams.
That council gives unanimous consent to the Fire Services bylaw 032-2023 for third reading.
Any further discussion? Call the question, those in favor? That is carried. Counselor Hughes.
I move that council gives third reading to Fire Services Bylaw number 03/2023.
Any further discussion? Call the question, those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you.
All right.
So for the second report that I bring for you tonight is for bylaw 17/2023, the traffic bylaw. So this bylaw would replace the current traffic bylaw 04/2019. So in July 4th, 23, at a regular meeting of council, a report was presented on the possibility of changing the effective hours of school zones and playground zones in Slave Lake, and to discuss changing the unposted speed limit in residential areas from 50 kilometers an hour to 40. So on the school zones, council was presented with 3 options, and they chose to pursue for administration to bring back a bylaw updated for option number 1, which was to change the school zones effective on school days only from 8 a.m. from the current times to 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. So this was updated in section 6.7 of the 17/23 traffic bylaw. And the other discussion was on speed reduction from 50 kilometers an hour to 40 kilometers an hour. At the same meeting, council was presented with 2 options. They chose administration to bring back the bylaw with updated reflecting option 1, changing all unposted speed limits to 40 kilometers an hour in Slave Lake. And this is reflected in section 6.6 of the 17/2023 traffic bylaw.
Counselor Adams.
I have a question more for administration. I don't know if you can answer it or not, is with the speed limit change, are we looking at changing any of the posted speed limits to match the unposted speed limits in the community? So
No, there's nothing that's before you today. So we will, essentially the 50 kilometers an hour will remain on Main Street and our arterial roads. Caribou has its own speed limit as well, right? And then basically any of the non-posted roads outside of the school zones will be essentially 40 kilometers an hour. So basically the residential and the side streets.
So we currently have posted speed limits of 50 kilometers an hour and 30 kilometers an hour. So anything not posted will become 40 kilometers an hour.
I'd like to make sure we're looking at everywhere where it is posted, because I mean, Springwood's posted at 50 kilometers an hour. which doesn't make much sense, right? If we're gonna do 40, so I want to make sure we have no other one-offs around the area that need to drop to 40.
Yeah, correct. I mean, the intent here is unless council directs otherwise, is that, I mean, this is to lower speed limits in our residential and high,
Yeah.
high risk, high
Well, that's what I'm
children,
talking
high pedestrian traffic sort of areas, right? So should there be a posted speed limit in one of those areas? Obviously, we're gonna remove those. That's gonna be, to the
Okay.
40, right?
Intention is that residential is moving to 40, and if
Correct.
there is a one-off 50-kilometer, the residential,
We'll address
not
that.
the arterial.
Yeah, those signs are already planned to come down within the
Okay.
next couple of
I
days.
think that is.
After
Not
this-
your main, your main
That's good.
connectors, your
Not the main
6.
connectors, just if
Yeah.
Springwood isn't a main connector,
Correct.
so that would be.
That's correct.
Another concern is notification of people for these changes. I see in the communication strategy where we're sitting it, but I'd also like us to consider putting in our those emergency big digital trailer signs, whatever they are, in the school zones to notify this coming, especially with it being new and just educating public a lot in the short term here.
Yeah, and we do,
Use our social media, our Voyant, our different avenues, and then.
Yeah, I saw that. but-
In our previous years, the emergency services have gone to the school zones on the first week of school. So one of the plans was to take our signs, strategically move them around through the week and just make reminders on there of the new adjustment to the times.
Okay,
Counselor Brandel.
Oh, when is it effective?
First day of school, I believe, September 5th.
Okay.
but the bylaw becomes effective if you pass it
Yeah.
tonight.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, the tomorrow the signs would be changed, but.
I was speeding on the way home.
Right?
Okay.
Counselor Hughes.
Thanks for bringing this forward, Alex. I was gonna say the same thing as Council Adams, but just one more time, I do really want to make sure that we get a lot of communication out to residents in really effective ways. I don't want this to be a thing, well, I didn't know, and then people getting tickets and it kind of becoming a huge uproar. So yeah, as long as
I've
we're
spoken
kind
to
of
the peace officers on the RCMP, and there's gonna be some education taking place as well.
good. Okay,
It's not just gonna be a ticket on although school zones in effect on the first day.
yeah,
Is people should be aware of that. With the time change, we'll advertise it as best we can.
right. Okay.
We can put it through Voyant, which now has.
Yeah, that's on
still
their list too.
significant
So
numbers.
yeah, that does look good. I just wanted to stress that that's one of my concerns moving into this, making sure that we do have lots of communication. But if no one else has any other comments, I'll make a motion. I move that council give first reading to bylaw number 17-2023 traffic bylaw.
Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor, and that is carried. All those opposed? Okay, sorry, missed that. There's been a lot of voting, so, okay. Continue.
Move that council give second reading, bylaw number 17-20
Belong to-
traffic bylaw.
Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. All those opposed? And that is carried. Counselor Mwallam.
I'll move that council gives unanimous consent to bylaw number 17-2023 traffic bylaw for third reading.
Call to question those in favor.
There's discussion on this one.
There's discussion on this one. Sorry.
So as previously stated, I'm not in favor of the 8 to 4:30 school zones. I'm not in favor of the 40-kilometer-hour speed limit throughout town. Police already have the ability to ticket if someone is driving too fast with conditions. I believe it is unnecessary and that the majority of the residents who responded to this survey didn't support it either. That being said, it's not my hill to die on, and I do not wish to create extra work for administration and bring the report back again. Therefore, I will support it to give it unanimous consent so we can get the school zones updated sooner rather than later.
Thank you, Counselor Ferguson. Any further discussion to that? Okay, call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Counselor Adams.
Move that council gives third reading to bylaw 17-2023 traffic bylaw.
Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. All those opposed, and that is carried.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you. Roland.
Good evening, your worship and members of council. The purpose of tonight is just to provide council with an update, year-to-date budget results and projections till the end of the year. All of the information in the summary reports have been compiled as of August 8th. Following this report are two summaries, one showing operating revenues by type and then by department. I'll go through the highlights here. Overall revenues for the period stood at 75% of the total revenue budget for the year. Overall expenditures for the period totaled 57%. The figures presented in this update include both actual expenses incurred and known payables for the time period. Personnel costs incurred to date are at 56% of their allotted budget. Savings here include vacant positions throughout the year. However, some of these savings have been offset due to higher overtime costs throughout each department to provide services. The majority of the positions have now been filled, and projections through to the end of the year estimate about a $60,000 budget surplus in salaries and wages. Contracted and general services are trending higher for the year at 58%. Areas of concern here include legal fees, snow removal fees, and MRC contracted services. Total budgeted legal fees for all departments is $43,500, and expenditures year to date total $80,000, with projected fees ending the year at around $105,000. Snow removal services for the year were budgeted at $60,000. The spring cleanup came in at $67,000, with the additional cost offset by some position vacancies. Depending on the amount of snow, however, any additional amount of snow the snow cleaning budget will incur cost overruns. Contracted services for the MRC are also trending higher. Budget for the year was $42,800, with actual costs standing at $65,000, with projections showing approximately $112,000 for the year. Material supplies and utilities are in line with expectations for the year at 52% of the budget. Projections here forecast year-end costs coming in slightly below budget. Transfers to individuals and organizations. These includes payments towards the Library Wildfire Legacy Center, Slave Lake Airport, as well as community grants, and have expended 97%. Debenture interests is in line with budget expectations. There's just quick highlights for the department by department breakdown. For council's budget, it has expended 49% of its current budget. Legislative services is projected to remain on budget. Administration includes corporate services, financial services, the CAO, and project management. On the revenue side, the majority of revenue consists of annual business licenses and administrative service fees. These fees are expected to generate the expected revenue. On the expense side, 43% has been expended so far. Costs here are in line with expectations, with the exception of salaries for the year, which are trending lower due to position vacancies. And again, all of the positions have now been filled, and overall expectations are to be below budget. Police services currently includes fine revenue for 15% of the earned income. Other income to be recognized later on the year is provincial grants. Projections for fine revenue and fees for services are expected to be above budget for the year. Expenses includes 2 RCMP service payments for the year, with 2 more to come. Expenditures currently sit at 56% of the budget and are trending higher for the year. RCMP reconciliation adjustments included an additional $82,000, and the updated RCMP projections that were given to the town, including a presentation, are expected to be higher than we had budgeted for. Going forward, in addition, costs are also expected to rise due to multiple equipment replacement programs, including equipment, handguns, training, and additional items. It is expected that the RCMP services budget will be $100,000 over for the year. Fire services, revenues are trending much higher for the year. Fire services went on a number of deployments this year to assist other communities, which brought in a significant amount of additional revenue. Overall expenses outside of the deployments are in line with budget expectations. However, due to the employment, wages are above budget. However, this is more than offset with the revenue that they have generated. Bylaw enforcement, revenues are trending lower for the year. Fine revenue is trending lower as well. Photo radar is significantly down. As photo radar doesn't have a overall operating budget impact or operating impact, reserve transfers from photo radar are expected to be vastly smaller than in previous years. Expenses are all trending higher for the year. Legal fees have exceeded budget for the year by $30,000. Equipment repairs have exceeded budget for the year. And wages for the dog pound services are all trending higher and are projected to exceed budget limits for the year. On to operations. The revenue under operations is all internal recoveries and is fully recoverable. Expenses overall are in line with expectations, with the exception of the snow removal budget. Water and wastewater services. Revenues for both water and wastewater usage is slightly higher than in previous years and is generating additional income. Our bulk water wastewater sales are also trending higher as well. In addition, a number of meters changeouts took place, resulting in more accurate readings from some commercial and industrial lots and are also adding to increased revenue. Expenses are mainly in line with budget expectations. Two areas of concern are some additional repairs and maintenance that will be required that will result in costs running over budget, as well as chemical costs for the year. Chemical costs for the year are expected to run $60,000 over the budgeted amounts. These additional costs, however, will be covered with the higher revenues, and it is projected that reserve transfers are also forecasted to be greater than budget. So while there's additional costs in the water and wastewater center, the additional income that we're bringing will be more than enough to offset that. Garbage services, so revenue is trending slightly lower than budget. However, costs are also trending slightly lower. Projections do not anticipate a deficit or surplus for the end of the year. Planning, land, and economic development. Planning and development revenues are trending lower for the year. The overall number of permits is lower than in previous year. However, the value of the permits being issued are for bigger developments and are generating more income. No lot sales have been included in projections so far for this year for the Fournier lot. And as such, if there is some lot sales, this could change revenue projections. Lower on the expense side, lower than budgeted for position costs, as well as no reserve transfers for lot sales are driving lower than expected costs. On the commercial properties, nothing really to report there. It's in line with expectations for the year and projected to be on budget. Community services, so this is the whole department, includes administration costs for parks and recreation, the MRC, pool, sports fields, as well as the visitor and information center. Most revenue is in line with expectation. However, user group revenue is trending lower for the year and is projected to fall below budget, as well as advertising revenue is significantly lower than budgeted and is expected to be well below budget. Expenses are mostly in line with expectation, with the exception of the contracted services. Grants to other organizations, all major contributions for the year have been paid to each organization. Property taxes all have been levied for the year. General revenue, which is made mostly up from the ATCO and ATCO Gas and Power franchise-free agreements and interest. Both interest and ATCO fees are trending higher for the year and are projected to come in above budget. And for property taxes, there's 3.5 owing in property taxes. 2.7 of that is current and represents persons on the monthly tip program. So that's expected to be collected by the end of December. There's $320,000 owing for 2022, $121,000 owing for 2021, $412,000 owing for 2020, and $9,000 owing for 2019. Overall, through a combination of position vacancies throughout the year, as well as additional revenue from the fire services deployment, the town is on track to generate approximately $220,000 as a budget surplus.
Councilor Randall.
Question about the spring cleanup costing $67,000. What would that entail?
That was you're talking snow?
No, spring cleanup.
Should be snow or snow spring cleanup.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Totally different thing.
Counselor Hughes?
What are the contracted services at the MRC exactly?
I was gonna ask.
So that's we'll have to touch base. So there really isn't anything like super extraordinary out of there. I think prior, how it was, I guess, handled in prior years. There's always been some, vacancies at the MRC, not fully. We've never been fully staffed there, so some of those costs were always incurred and always offset with just a position vacancy. So it was more of a budget adjustment and covered a different way. Now that we're kind of fully running and fully staffed, typically seems to be an issue.
So traditionally, this
at budget time.
Yeah, so traditionally, this line item has been under budgeted for the regular costs that are being incurring in there. So contracted services are paying another organization to do a service. So whether it's servicing the equipment, servicing the HVAC systems, cleaning, anything else outside of our own employees would be typically covered under contract services.
Okay.
Just in previous years, the director at the time hadn't necessarily funded or requested funding for that department to be reflective of the actual costs that are incurring, and basically was utilizing surpluses and other line items still within his department to offset the potential overages. So
Okay, so we're
It's-
just doing it differently
it's coming to light now. It's been recognized that this was an area that we were underfunding, and it'll be an item for discussion and revisiting come a review of our 2024 budget.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Adams?
What was the significant, or why the significant increase in chemical costs for water and wastewater?
We have.
Cody,
We have the man here,
you
but
can fill that in. If you like.
yeah, I think overall the chemicals were a little bit higher. We're using a little bit more, and then there's some adjustments that we needed to make.
And that was pre or post budget then? We didn't know that before budget? Okay.
And that line item was significantly increased. I think we increased it about 80 grand. So we did anticipate an increase, but what we're needing is significantly more.
Counselor Adams?
I'd like to move that council accept actuals versus budget as of August 8th, 2023 report as information.
Any further discussion? Call the question, those in favor? And that is carried. Thanks, Roland. All right, Cody, your turn.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Today we are here to present a report for council to give bylaw 16-2023 third reading. So the background here, the existing bylaw 02-1996 and bylaw 15-2009 are outdated and need to be updated to current standards. Bylaw 16-2023 was brought to the July 4th regular meeting of council for first, second, and third reading. It, however, did not get unanimous consent to proceed to third reading. So the three options tonight, option one, council gives the water and waste bylaw, water and wastewater bylaw 16-2023 third reading. Option two, council may request changes or amendments. Option three, council does not give bylaw 16-2023 third reading. And our recommendation to council is to give the water and wastewater bylaw 16-2023 third reading.
Thank you. Counselor Adams?
I would just like clarification and memory, like I said, sometimes. Bryce, what was your issue with this again, to refresh my memory?
That the CAO has the discretion after the fact, after all development permits and everything's said and done, to require somebody to connect thereby incurring an additional cost that they did not budget nor plan for or was in an original agreement. That was my concern. I don't think that and I maintain that still. I don't think we should have that power.
It's page 28 and page 39 of the existing or the proposed bylaw.
And as council already knows, we already had somebody reach out indicating they'll have to spend approximately $20,000 to connect. And that they don't want to be forced to connect. So I'm not in support of the bylaw as long as we have these sections remaining in them.
I will make a clarification to that the costs were preliminary and aren't accurate regards to the cost to connect, because that taxpayer did kind of jump the gun on some of the pricing. That I think it was Jeff's going to chime in right after I finish this right now. And then that the support for this, we have the support of the remainder of the businesses, and that was the only one to complain. But Jeff can go ahead and then Steve.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. And then just Cody, just for clarification, in the old bylaw that we're replacing, were there provisions that required the same mandatory connection anyway?
Yes, there is.
Granted, but in my
So
opinion,
there's-
I don't think they should have been there in that bylaw either. So,
Okay, but just so if we did not pass this bylaw, the existing bylaw that is in place would still have that same requirement though.
understood.
Back or other plan to put sewer or water attached sewer and water down the industrial area. And mandatory,
You are
Tie-
required to connect
Is that-
unless you
yeah.
have a vacant property.
but how does that apply to this? If you don't have that in here, how can we force?
So it is in
It's
here
in here.
and it was in the old one as well. We've just updated.
For it to be removed?
Yes, it should be
Yes.
removed in my. opinion.
So I'm asking if it's removed in this, we have no power on that
Correct.
or what?
If you vote to amend or to remove that section of this bylaw, but you put this bylaw in place, it will remove that requirement. If you defeat this bylaw as it's presented,
That
Yeah,
requirement.
then it goes to
staff.
the old one.
I get
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So is it accurate that every business other than that one would connect?
Well, there's still.
Is that what I heard?
No one's-
Oh, okay, I thought that's what I heard.
No, that there's been no other complaints.
Oh, that there's no
and
other
that the
complaints.
majority
Okay.
of businesses have support. Now, majority meaning we've had 5 or 6 that have come back and said that they would connect. There's only 13 in the first section.
Yeah, and of those 13, I think there's only 10 that actually have structures.
10 that have structures, so
Yeah.
10 would be required to connect, and so far
Yeah.
1 has complained, all of them been connected. An additional 5 I believe it's 5 or 6 that we were speaking to with Kush have expressed their support. And then unheard from the remaining there. One out of that, yes.
That's another.
100% another subject, but Councilor Wellham had asked about the clarification for that, so I just wanted to make sure that I was clear in what I said there. Councilor Gramlich.
I will move to give water and wastewater bylaw number 16-2023 third reading.
Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. All those opposed, and that is carried. Thank you.
That was a long wait for that, hey?
Click on this report and it's
And
very
even a
small.
longer wait.
Calvin. Our favorite topic, snow removal.
Snow removal.
I don't want to talk about this.
I don't either. I don't either.
Doesn't Feel right.
I'll just go home.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The purpose of this report is to provide council with a summary of the snow service level. The town is responsible for clearing the snow from the streets. The snow removal from the streets was performed following our current snow removal bylaw 08-2022 and our 2021 department service levels. Okay, it's discussion, depending on the year and the location of the properties and sidewalks. Property owners or occupants are required to clear the snow and ice from the budding property within 24 hours of the snowfall. The snow and ice cannot be removed and put onto the street or avenues or lanes or anything like that. Okay, generally during the snow process, the snow is not removed from the roads. It's stored in windrows and piled on the side of the streets. as per the current bylaw. The downtown core is the only area that's regularly cleaned, piled, and removed by employees and contracted companies. I have 4 maps there. The first map is the snow removal priority route. The second one is the snow storage area. The third one is the downtown core hall area. And the fourth one is the snow pile locations where we pile the snow in downtown the core. We only pile the snow in the downtown core until about 8 o'clock in the morning. It's usually all gone and hauled out to the lagoons. And as well as I have the bylaw in there. From our service levels, all critical community connectors, hospital zones, and critical intersections to be cleared within 24 hours of each major snowfall of excess of 15 centimeters. Snow clearing will also be initiated when accumulated snowpack of 10 centimeters is reached. Downtown and downtown laneways within 72 hours. The downtown core, again, is the only area that will be trucked out to the snow dump. Snow clearing in residential will result in snow being stored on the sidewalks, the lawns, the grass areas, in order to increase pedestrian vehicular safety. Cul-de-sacs will be piled in the middle of the cul-de-sac until residential is complete and then hauled to our snow dump. The resource impact, the Department of Operations has 2 loaders, 2 graders, 1 skid steer, 1 backhoe, and 1 plow sanding truck, and qualified personnel to sand and clear snow from the streets. Private companies are also contracted to assist when we have above average snowfalls. Just a little note on there, our new grader will be showing up in the end of September, so it should be all ready to go, and that will make our total of 2 graders with 1 spare. Communication, the attached documents are publicly available. Snow removal, or this relation to strategic planning, mission statement or vision statement. Snow removal from the streets enhances traffic and pedestrian safety, which helps improve the quality of life of residents and visitors. Recommendation is for council to receive this as information. Any questions?
Counselor Adams.
Yeah,
He's ready.
of course, I'm ready to go.
You just always start there.
Okay, same questions as I have every year. Because we always seem to answer them and then we never do them. On 1A Ave Southwest, in that cul-de-sac down at the end, we said we were gonna match that to the rest of 1A. It's still not showing on the map as being matched to 1A. Oh, still has a zone 4. Or whatever, the blue one. Thank you. My other question, well, I'll wait till we get an answer there, I guess.
Yep.
Okay, the other question is over, I'm not sure where else this applies, but I just know about it for Springwood. Earmuffs. Why do we always pile this? Why do we alternate piling snow when there is a no parking zone on one side? To me, that snow should be piled always on the no parking zone, so that cars can properly park on this next to the sidewalk, so the doors open and we actually have a full road to be able to drive down, as opposed to the other side when cars have to park further out from the snow drifts. And then we're down to single lane driving on that road.
Yeah, what happened there was we had a whole bunch of, we used to pile to the one side all the time.
Yep.
Before we'd started doing the odds and evens. So, and there was a no parking on that side. And we had some complaints on the other side. Why do we get the snow all the time? Doesn't go to the other side. So then that's when we started doing the odd and even. So my suggestion would either pile to the other side, like you said, or remove the no parking signs.
I understand we can't remove no parking because then we wouldn't have 2-way traffic on that road, correct? It'd be too narrow. That's why it was deemed, when they developed that property, that there'd be no parking on 7th Street on the one side and no parking on the north side of Springwood.
So then maybe. Yeah, this might even benefit you, Steve, if you're alternating the snow and it's on the opposite of the no parking part side, like, couldn't that also make it narrow, where you're now taking that
No,
away anyway,
because-
right? Like,
No, because there's no one parking there.
no, I know, but when it is on that side, now you're even, I'm on your, I'm helping you with this one, like, you're narrowing it, right? When it does go opposite, hey, you're parking on this side and the snow's on this side, right? Like, when they are alternating and it's screwing it up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That was my argument. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Sorry, I misunderstood what you were saying.
you just like arguing with me.
Because you never agree with me.
I said, I'm helping you here.
Yeah, we could look into that and see what we can do. Yeah, I know that was a hot spot last year too, and
It just doesn't make sense to me at all, because I know we get more cars parking down there now on Springwood Drive. And coming out of, not that it impacts me, I don't live on either side of Springwood Drive, so whatever. But I know driving down that road, it's not easy to do. At all.
Calvin, is there more than just those two roads? So Springwood and then the one that's right by Roland Michener there? Is there more than those two that have no parking on one side?
No parking is also across from CJ Shirt or.
Would it be in it? Yeah, but that's the residential there, so.
It's
Would it be crazy to alternate the no parking signs?
Yes.
It's just a sign on a light. Right?
It doesn't matter where you're turning onto that road, right?
True.
You're making a left-hand turn, you need to go into a clear lane, not the reduced lane where the other one's coming. That's why 7th Street, they picked the west side to be no parking, not the east side. Correct? For road rules? Or maybe I'm
Yeah.
wrong.
why don't you and I go for a drive over there?
Okay, we'll be driving there tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, it's too.
So we do have the flexibility, we can alter a little bit for traffic and stuff like that. We've altered our snow plan without altering the whole bylaw or anything like that, so.
Where is this spelled out, Calvin? Is this in a policy? That alternating,
Yes, it alternate sides.
is it in a policy?
No, I think it was just, they had a lot of complaining about the residents on the one side getting it all the time.
It kills grass, it's annoying, right? Like.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well, if it's in we'll have to look. If it's in a policy, then we'll have to bring, especially if it's a forward facing policy, we'll have to bring it back here for change. If we're looking to change or deviate from, or even an
I
exception.
don't think your map structure has any, you just determine where your alternating is. The
Yeah, but
map,
if
I
our,
don't think
if our
it's
plan is to
strictly
say we alternate in residential every year and we're looking to create an exemption
according
for
to the
that.
map.
Yeah,
That's what I mean. You're referring to a map that you arbitrarily put your colors on.
we can, if there is a policy implication, we'll bring it back.
Yeah.
And,
If there's not, then
all right, it's for discussion anyways.
Counselor Hughes.
Yeah. go ahead.
I'm gonna bring up an old snow question as well, Steve. So this one is more around our walking trails. I think I asked about this before and I am blanking on what you told me, so here I am asking again. The Allery Trail system, I guess in particular, and I'm also wondering about like years ago, and maybe we had funded it more, but we had that little whatever cat or whatever, I'm sorry, lacking the phrase, that went down like, say, the collectors that we talk about, right? So let's say, for instance, along 6th Avenue where people go walk their dog to the dog park in the wintertime. Is there the possibility to have those sidewalks cleaned a little bit more frequently as well for some of the residents that do enjoy, you know, a run or walking in the winter months as well? I'm just kind of curious. It seems to, like, I have personally gotten feedback on that as well. So I'm just kind of wondering, I know we used to do it. Did we not fund for it anymore? And just kind of looking for information.
so the sidewalk clearing and trail clearing is handled by community services.
Right?
So-
Yes, that's what you told me last time.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now it
So
rings
we
a bell.
have to-
Now it rings a
I can
bell.
answer that
That's
question.
right.
Okay,
So we brought it up, we looked at our service levels. And we determined that everybody else has to clear the sidewalk in front of their house. So why are we clearing sidewalks in front of some but not others?
okay,
And it was also eliminated as a cost saving measure. So
okay.
yes, we used to, but it was eliminated, I don't know, I want to say 6 or 7 years ago now.
Yeah, it's definitely been a while.
To a whole, we call them selected sidewalks back in the year.
Mhm.
And we did a whole bunch of sidewalks that weren't ours. They were in front of residents and years ago, this is quite a few years ago. Council wanted to kind of create sidewalk corridors to get the people to the main street.
Mhm.
So we did the outside loop, like down 12th Street, 11th back up 6th. We had basically there was 4 loops, all 4 quadrants of town.
Right,
We did quite a few.
yeah.
And then that was changed. Oh, I'm gonna say 9-10 years ago,
Okay,
roughly.
yeah.
Actually, it was even before that. It was changed and because they said that we shouldn't be cleaning other people's snow.
Yeah.
They live there. It's their-
I agree with that on principle for sure. I think I'm just trying to think about, is there a way or can we have a broader discussion about, cleaning the sidewalks that are used a lot more by pedestrians and people, walking to the dog park and things like that in the wintertime. It's kind of a promotion of getting outside and healthy living and all of that, activity during the winter months. I think it is added value to residents. It's not to play favorites with someone on their sidewalk, just a general added value thing is kind of a discussion I kind of like to have, but go ahead.
Doesn't the town currently clear their own snow on a timely basis in front of the dog park, right from wherever the residential ends to?
Yeah,
That part, but like a lot of people take some of these collectors to get there as well early in the morning, and then it's very icy and it's concerning. Like, I don't know how many times I've seen a senior trying out or someone trying to walk their dog and they're like sliding all over the place. And I'm just kind of like, oh man, like I wonder, if there's something we could do, if we can make an improvement in some way just to do better, at least in, the sense of those main roads or something like that. That's all I'm after.
Day, but there'd be a budget impact, right?
Yeah, agreed. And I fully understand that. I was just curious on the history on that one again, so then I can bring it up at budget time.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councillor Adams.
My other question is the road that goes into Glory Land from Caribou Trail. Why do we have that ranked as a number 2? Or yellow, sorry, whatever.
Number 3.
Number 3, yes, sorry. I keep forgetting about the emergency one is number 1. Number 3.
Because your main street is your main one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if, since that is a gravel road, not a main road for anything, why do we even have that ranked there? Why wouldn't that be ranked as number 4, just like the residential area?
Yeah, we could. There's no reason we couldn't. We just, like I said, we just do your main street into Glory Land on that side. Years ago, there wasn't another road in there, so that
Yeah,
was.
that I understand when the Main Street didn't extend in there, but now that Main Street is a number 2 coming into Glory Land, they get a number 2 coming in, then it goes to a 4. Why do we need to have a 3 going out the road that is a gravel road that to me, that should just be a number 4.
Yeah, that little stretch is.
And would save ourselves, because we're driving all the way over there to do a number 3. Just that one stretch, that's it.
Yeah, we can definitely change that, and we could actually catch it when we catch Caribou Trail, just wrap right around the Glory Land.
So then you're saying you're gonna make a number 2 right down the gravel road and around through Glory Land?
Well, we could make it a number 3, so going in Glory Land, it's a number 4, so we could just make it a number 3 and then catch it at the same time when we do Caribou Trail. So
It is a number 3 already.
Yeah, it is.
It's currently listed as a 3.
Yeah.
No.
And the one that's in front of St. Francis is.
Oh, sorry, make it a number 2, sorry. I didn't have my glasses on. So we could catch it when we catch Glory Land or Caribou Trail. So we're already over there with right to the highway with Caribou Trail. So we could just jump across the highway.
I mean, I wouldn't recommend turning it to a 4 because it is still an access point to that school. So it is still an artery. Well, some people are coming in, avoiding the traffic intersection and avoiding the mall, and they're actually coming in through that road and hitting the school. So, and driving right in front of Ally's house there. So you can.
I have to believe how many school buses come down that road.
Yeah.
Straight by.
So they're using it to exit and enter potentially into that area. So
4 or 5 school buses down that road.
yeah, so I would not recommend changing that to anything less than a 3. If not in practicality, it probably should be a 2. if it's used as often as it is to access that school.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm done. I know, only 3.
So one other thing that wasn't included in this report, but we did make a change last year that should be kind of included is we rolled back our hours. We started at 7 a.m., right? And I think that had a substantial impact on our regular snow removal service. It allowed us to get out just that little bit earlier in front of people and on the roads. And Cal can speak to kind of, how that's, and we've actually transitioned it and kept it, although it was meant to be a pilot for just the winter months. We actually started to see advantages even in our summer operations, right, of starting early. So
Yeah, they actually, the operators come to us and they preferred that shift. So they start at 7 every day, all the way around the year now. And they're getting out there a little earlier, beating a little of the traffic and
Be so quicker, eh?
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
Yeah,
they're
the-
off a little earlier in the afternoon too, so.
I will say the feedback from last year's snow removal was significantly better compared to the previous years that I had heard. I think that avoiding the school zones during peak times and starting early made a significant amount of difference, especially with the reduction in busing this year, and increasing the parent traffic in front of the schools. So I think that was just really smart decisions all around, and something that doesn't necessarily have a massive budget impact, but is able to shift our existing resources. So I'm a huge fan of it.
Yeah, and we do our best to try and stay out of schools every once in a while. They're
Every once in a while for sure,
gonna
but
be
I
in
think
just the way
the
it works, eh?
attempt, the
Yeah.
attempt
Oh,
to
yeah.
not be there.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
might have, just being cognizant of, traffic patterns in a small town are fairly minimal, but that is congestion occurs
Yeah.
during school zone time. So I think trying to avoid that and starting earlier made a huge difference. You lied to me, Steve.
I did. Just you talking about schools made me think, with the change in the rules from the Alberta government for busing radiuses. How have we looked at how it's going to impact us by doubling our number of bus pickups in town? How that's going to impact our snow removal and travel and access and all that fun stuff?
Isn't it the same number of bus pickups pre the cancellation of buses?
It's 1 kilometer radius now instead of 2.4.
So they don't have to walk uphill both ways?
That's right. Not like when I was.
I'm waiting for that.
I just don't know how that's going to impact, or if it will be an impact to us. Is that something we should maybe understand better? I'm not sure if they're adding buses, if they're keeping the same buses, just increasing frequency,
Yeah,
any
actually,
of that stuff, because that's going to impact our
so the year before last, they went down in buses. And then that
yeah, 'cause
caused,
they didn't have anybody. And so then that increased the number of people that were in school zones. Now, with the change with the Alberta government rules today, this year's an optional year to do mandatory pickups of 1 kilometer. So they're required to offer it, whereas before it was 2.4. So in town, 2.4 kilometers barely hits the fringes of the Slave Lake. So that's the only requirement for busing at that time. Now it's coming all the way into 1,000 meters. Radius. So we're gonna see a lot more buses in town.
we last year, so we noticed a lot more vehicles.
Yeah.
So a lot more parents driving their kids to school and stuff like that. And that kind of created some problems with us. We kind of tried to adjust, like stay off the main drag, especially Main Street, stuff like that. Now I'm hoping it's now that they're gonna be more school buses, gonna be less.
Well, I don't know if it's more school buses or just they're having to do trips. I'm just saying, maybe we should be reaching out to our Prairie School of Vision to even find out what their plan is.
yeah, we definitely can do that, right? And it may be a wait and see sort of, impact to see what if, and we have to make any changes or in terms of frequency or whatever the case may be. It might be a little premature to make a change at this stage because
I'm not saying make a change
Yeah.
now. I'm just saying I'd like
just to
us
be aware and cognizant of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Other side note question that has nothing to do with anything. Is our loaders, or that just us? We do the loaders? Do we contract the loaders out when we're doing the downtown stuff?
For downtown loading the trucks.
Yeah.
That's contracted.
Contract the loaders?
So we
Would that run us if What does that cost approximately?
Well, our whole snow budget is all just downtown core, so it costs us for the trucks and the loader. So we usually get 4 to 5 trucks every downtown cleanup and then 1 loader. And it's,
Okay.
I think it's like $2.25 an hour, $2.50 an hour or something like that, eh? So.
Thank you.
Councilor Hughes.
I will make a motion. Everyone's okay with that? I move that council receives the service level summary for street snow removal report as information.
Any further discussion? Call the question, those in favor, and that is carried. Thanks, Cal.
Thank you.
Councilor Hughes.
We'll also make a motion for us to continue past 10 since we are creeping up to that time.
Any further discussion? Call the question, those in favor. And that is carried. Councilor Ferguson, were you going to make the same motion or something else? Okay, thank you. No, everyone's on the same page, so thank you for keeping me in line. Intermunicipal agreements. Jack.
The purpose of this report is for the Town of Slave Lake Council to approve the Peace Officer Agreement and the Visitor Information Center Agreement between the Town of Slave Lake and the MD of Lesser Slave Lake. Should be this. During the May 31st, 2023 intermunicipal committee meeting, members of the Town of Slave Lake Council and the MD reviewed the Peace Officer and Vic agreements. During this meeting, both councils agreed to bring the agreements back to both their respective councils for review and approval. July 19th, 2023, the MD passed to accept the Visitor Information Center Agreement as presented, and they also on the same day passed the Police Officer Agreement as amended, with the following minor amendments to change towns, the words towns to municipalities in paragraph 4. The Visitor Information Center Agreement and the amended Peace Officer Agreement have been brought to the Town of Slave Lake Council to review and approve. You have 2 options before you, one to accept and approve the 2 agreements, or a second option to not accept and approve the 2 agreements as presented.
Councilor Adams.
In 8A, the town will have access to lobby and reception areas in the building as well as the workstations directly behind the reception area, at least office and a storage area. What is at least office?
Referring to here?
8A.
8A.
Is it supposed to say at least one office and a storage?
Ah, there you go. That makes sense.
That likely could be the wording, yeah.
At least one office.
At least 5.
There's no offices plural, so it leads
Got
me
that.
to believe that one is the correct wording on that.
Okay, we'll make that change.
Don't look at me.
There
It's
there are
encouraging you to ask more
motions.
questions.
Counselor Randall, thank you.
I move to accept the Visitor Information Center Agreement and the amended Peace Officer Agreement.
Okay,
Do we have to say amended?
You should probably say amended Visitor Information Center Agreement, I guess.
that one word.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call the question, those in favor. And that is carried. Okay, question period. Counselor Moallem, that is you.
Jump in. I feel a lot of the pain.
Microphone.
Talk about. I feel a lot of the pain that one of the delegations brought up today in our administration closing between the hours of 12 to 1. I think that's the most convenient time for people to come, ask questions, pay bills. We may eliminate some of these delegations just by being a little bit more accessible at the most accessible time for people. So I wanted to look at being open 12 to 1 and having at least one person in that administration area.
Counselor Randall.
Well, I actually thought we did during the tax season already. But I don't know like the actual times that they do it, but I could have sworn it was for July for sure.
Yeah, there was, I think it was explored at one point in time. And I have had those discussions early when I first came here. But the amount of usage actually during that time period was very low. And it was causing personnel issues with the staff that are operating during there. That it was it was difficult to maintain and to implement. Yeah, that's the way I could
No, I
probably say
personally
it.
was locked up between 12 to 1 because I forgot my key card. So I also think it's a reasonable, I'm not in disagreement with Counselor Moallim here. I think that would be the time.
I mean, I can explore it further, but I know that there was difficulties and there are difficulties with family commitments, we'll say, to some of the staff that potentially are operating during that time that cause complications for that service, combined with there was a low usage.
I do understand that. I'm just seeing it's happening more and more, I think, with maybe government offices, registries, insurance offices, that they're closing 12 to 1 when it's the most accessible time for me to, if I did need to go and renew my driver's license, if I did need to go pick up a policy, if that is the most accessible time. I think we need to show that, you know, the town is we want to be more accessible. I know the numbers might not prove it, but I think opening 12 to 1 at least makes us as accessible as we can be.
So, I mean, I can look at it again and bring back an option. The other thing to keep in mind is, I would say it's probably unique to this place of work. I've worked at a number of places over 20 years. Just about our entire staff in the rest of the building is gone for lunch. So you may have a service that's open at 12 to 1, and you may be able to pay utility bill or taxes. But if you had a permit question or you had a question regarding community services, those staff are not working during that time either. And with their implementation of our ERP system, you'll even have more options to be able to pay those bills online during that period of time, regardless of whether we're open or not. So the potential upswing of having that hour, I don't know if it's all the headache that it's worth, but I'll look at it for you again if you like.
Yep, please. Yes, please.
Counselor Adams.
Just with this town speed limit bylaw that we have in place, nice and new and shiny. A couple of things have kind of been brought to light when I've talked to other community members and as well as myself, thinking about it a little more. I'm wondering about the speed limit of 50 kilometers an hour on Main Street. On the north or on the south side of the tracks, I get it, makes sense for 50 for most of it. I'm just wondering about the feasibility or how it makes sense for us to continue having a speed limit of 50 kilometers an hour on the north side of the tracks. Coming 50 kilometers an hour, which you do see people do down there. I have seen a number of close calls, both with pedestrians, cars backing up, high traffic area. I understand some of the concerns saying that police have the authority to, if you're driving reckless, that they can give you a ticket. But that being said, you never see them there. I don't know if this makes sense for others or not, that we should reduce that speed limit in that downtown core section. Having that reduced speed limit, I think helps with safer traffic. People actually who they're looking around to do shopping and pulling into stop start, looking for parking spots, whatever it may be. We have other roads around the town for people who want to get to the industrial area quickly, who want to go somewhere else quickly. That downtown core, I think, with having 2 schools that kind of participate and walk along that zone, as well as all those cars and traffics, that we should look at reducing the speed limit in that area.
Counselor Graham.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I have the heaviest foot in town council. There's no way you could try 50 down there safely, right? Like that's ridiculous. So.
Oh, yes, you can't drive safely from 7 to 8 PM, but after that, when it clears out, yeah, you can drive most of that pretty safely, going 45, 50 kilometers an hour.
Yeah,
How many additional signage do we want in town? This stretch is 50 kilometers, this stretch is 40, this is 60 kilometers over here, this is 30 kilometers. We're gonna start creating mass confusion with
I
having.
agree.
I'm good with making the entire town 40.
But the 40,
Why not make it 30?
Sure.
Synchronize it with.
I'm good with that too.
The 250s, like the 50 on Main Street wouldn't be 8 to 4:30, right? That would be all the time?
50s all the time.
Yeah.
Main Street's
But
50 all the
you're
time.
suggesting
I'm suggesting all the time at 40, yeah.
throughout the whole.
Only the section.
Well, I'm up for a discussion on it. I just think that downtown core is really dangerous. And one of the things that bug me about it, even at 50, is the school zone ends on the north side of the Legion. So really, the main crosswalk that we have for kids is swamped with kids. It's not a school zone.
Doesn't the school zone continue well past Callum? I'm fairly.
Oh, yes,
certain
that
it
way.
does.
Go the other way. I'm talking the other way, south.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I got you.
Because it's not a school zone around the Legion.
Yeah, got you.
So you could be doing 50 there and you got 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 10-year-old kids coming across on bikes and little electric scooters. And I've seen so many close calls with my window facing it. It's crazy.
The deal with 50 is you get to actually do 60, right? Like that's the thing.
Fair enough. Yeah. But I think it's something that's definitely worth discussion on that section. That is a dangerous section.
Sounds like you're making a motion.
For a report to come.
Can we, is that just a report we're
It's a
asking?
report to come back to council.
All right. I'll make a motion that administration comes up with a report for Main Street speed limit options.
Should really have all be doing it at the same time, but
Here we are.
yeah.
It starts there. One part is, and then it just starts with another. That's right. That's the one at the school zone ends just on the north side of the Legion there.
What, if I may interject as well, because I also have a business there and look out at all of I know exactly what you're talking about. I think what your issue is the students that are heading south past the Legion after school, they cross by the Legion over to the credit union, right? And then they go and wait on that corner while cars are whizzing by, and then they kind of, because I think there's lights there, isn't there?
That's
They
on that.
press the lights there and then they walk across. But that whole transition is certainly concerning. I have observed that only usually in the peak pickup times in town. But I understand what you're saying. I have seen that type of activity there as well and kind of cringed a couple times
At the
too.
Rex
So,
Theater and that crosswalk going from the Legion to Service. Like, because
Yeah.
the main path where the majority of kids go is across at the Rex Theater, then across to the Legion.
yeah,
That's the main crosswalk and it's not a school zone.
Councillor Graham.
yeah.
Here's an idea. Why don't we just extend the school zone?
The reason they took the school zone out was because the Legion is a bar and can't be in a school zone. What? Personally, I'd rather just keep the school zone and let's just make an exception for that.
Just
To the
extend it.
Legion.
And
Maybe
then,
that can
then
be
we
one
have
of,
to change the speed, right? Like
maybe
it's
that,
during school hours.
maybe that can be one of the options that's looked at in the report.
Don't mind that option. But anyways, options.
Options. There is a motion on the floor for a report to come back to council regarding Main Street speed options. Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Anything else for question period? Councillor Adams.
I know. Well, we had to bring them up here. We talked about it briefly on the school zone changes. Alex was saying they're going to have some emergency vehicles. Can we try and incorporate more than that? I know the last 3 years we haven't done it as far as for that week, but we used to do it where it'd be ambulances, police, bylaw, fire department. They were all over all the school zones in town, just hanging out with their lights on, just to bring attention to the fact. I brought this up last year, but it never happened. And I'd like to bring it up again, saying why
Fire
aren't we
was
doing
there
this?
last year.
Just fire. It was very limited. It was hit.
So the fire department sets up their signs and they are present. It would be difficult for us to direct AHS or
No, we
ambulances,
can't
right?
direct, but can we request and get some sort of collaboration?
Well, I've traditionally have never seen that. Police inevitably will increase safety patrols during that first couple of weeks of school anyway. So you will see them to much more visible during that period of time. And it could be something that we raise with the RCMP when you have your town hall.
To our CMP
Yeah.
that the school zone is this time.
They're having been there for 20 years. That's almost a given that happens every single year, that they will increase that presence.
Oh, they
right?
go there to do their job. I'm saying I want visibility is what I'm after. I don't care if we catch any.
You're looking for them to
My thing
be
is
parked in front of those zones.
Your lights on or something.
Well,
That's what I'm after. That's why I'm saying they used to have ambulances go out and park at the entrances and.
yeah, I don't know
necessarily.
necessarily that they're going to put their lights on to create a false sense of an emergency, but I mean, you will see their presence and you will see their patrols, and I think and obviously we're with the departments that we have control over, meaning fire department's heavily involved in the signage and being out there. Our bylaw will as well. But driving around or parking with our lights on necessarily, I don't know necessarily if that's what will happen, but you will see an increased presence for sure.
I know last year was not. At all.
I actually do like that idea of just having a parked vehicle with some lights going on, just to let everyone know and bring awareness. I noticed, I think last week I was driving Sixth Avenue Southeast and the contractor who was doing the sidewalks did that. So they were on the one side of the school zone and they had parked a vehicle on the side just with the lights on, and it was just kind of like a reminder, and it wasn't during a peak hour or something, but it was kind of around 7 o'clock or 7:30, but it just kind of reminded people. And that was a contractor doing it. There was no one in the vehicle, but I just thought, hey, that's good. They were working there, but he just had the light on. I just thought that was a really good courtesy, I guess.
Yeah, if that's what you're asking, make a motion and I'll send a letter and we'll see what we can do.
I'll make a motion,
Okay,
however you want to word that. You know what I mean? That's my motion.
make a motion.
Tell me who you want me to send the letter to.
I would
RC
like to send a letter to see if we can get participation from RCMP, AHS. I don't know if that's different depending on if it's just ambulance or whatever.
It would be different.
I mean, I'd even entertain the idea of having our town vehicles there for a certain amount of time at the start of the school zones.
Requesting that we have stationary vehicles with lights on. That's the request.
Yeah. Like you said, probably say no. They used to do it and it was great.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor requesting letters be sent to various entities regarding school zone, emergency, and other vehicles. Any further discussion?
School zone, sorry. I just left out, I just want to make sure to be present at
Yep.
the first week of
Yep.
school.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm.
Any
It's a
further
long day.
discussion?
Yeah.
Okay, call the question was in favor, and that is carried. Anyone else for question period? Counselor Ferguson.
Motion to go to camera.
State of the lake, yeah. State of the lake.
Oh, sorry.
Counselor Gromlich, State of the Lake.
Okay, Petroleum Association, want to thank them for putting on another Oilman's Golf Tournament. Their board, it takes a lot of work to do. Taylor Kellum, Joey Max McGregor, Wayne Dastel, Sheldon Goalkeeper, Coach Spasso. And times are good in oil and gas right now, so it's easier to blow up an event like this, but a big shout out to outgoing president Trevor Vance, who kept this alive since 2017 when times were bad. So thank you to that. And, highlight the Edmonton Oilers hockey schools in town this week. It's the first time they've done a week-long hockey school outside of Edmonton, so that's pretty cool. And if you're listening at home, you'll get a current Oiler tomorrow, 2 former Oilers and a future Oiler. And a little bit somber, I want to give a shout out to, not a shout out, but to the families of Yassine Muallim, Ron Ingham, and Joe Sloat. We lost 3 really good community members over the past week, so our thoughts are with their families right now. And I'm done.
Anyone? Yes, call the question, those in favor. And that is carried. Oh, thank you.